Mate, I'm really happy you've got the correct T-shirt on as well, mate. I should have worn mine. Should have been matchy.
Yeah, well, I'm gutted. I can't find my Globo Gym one.
You can't get them anymore. I had a look. You can't buy them anymore. Yeah. I was actually going to buy us new ones, but we can't get them anymore.
Right, mate. I'm going to do my usual checks to make sure that we're actually going live and not just speaking shit privately.
Nothing worse than speaking shit privately when you could be speaking shit to the population of Facebook.
Yeah, welcome to Facebook, by the way. I know you don't hang out here.
Yeah. It's what the young people do, yeah?
Not really, dude. It's a fucking strange. There's some strange people on.
What do the fucking young people do then? Where are they all?
Mate, it's all TikTok now, apparently.
I don't know what that is.
I've never been on TikTok. I know that I'm getting old because things like this happen. Like these trends are like everyone's on TikTok. Like Instagram took me a while. I'm always a year or two behind the trend.
I tried to make a reel today, and I threw my on Instagram. I threw my dolls out the pram about 5 times, and then Shell did it for me.
What happened on Instagram?
I tried to make a reel. Have you seen those things?
Oh, a reel. I don't even know what a reel is, bro.
It's just a video. I don't know why they give it a fancy name. It's just a video, but you can put music on it. And it looks, Shell's like, I just do this, this, and this. So I did it all, and nothing happened because technology hates me. And then I literally threw my dolls out the pram about 5 times, and she just come and grabbed the phone off me. And like, I've never felt like such an old man in my life, to be honest.
I'm having a huge battle. Like, there was this podcast that I saw, dude, advertised. It was like, look, grow your following to 10,000 people. And I was like, do you know what? I don't think I could think of anything worse right now than having 10,000 followers. I just don't think I could handle it.
Yes, it's too much. I mean, you get all those beautiful messages anyway, don't you? Like DM me for photos or send photos. You get loads of those. I don't get any. I'm really.
How come I get them all? And they're instant. Well, they must be like robots or bots or whatever you call them. But they're spam. They're just straight out. So I don't know.
I never get them. I get like 1 a month. You get like 5 a post.
It must be the hashtag that I'm putting on. Must be the hashtag.
Stop copying your
dude, cheers. Let's. I'm gonna crack a beer.
Nice one.
We said we'd finally get a beer together.
Yeah, it's not how we planned, but
no, it isn't. Dude, I heard something today that apparently it's been a year today since lockdown kind of like went into its first year.
Into its first 3 weeks. Yeah.
Out of the year, bro, what are the good things that have happened to you in the last year being in lockdown that you're going to keep when this shit is over?
First thing I've got to say, and it sounds crazy being a trainer, but is that I've massively prioritised my training. And I think that was something that I wasn't doing when I was training other people. I was trying to squeeze my training into little gaps and little 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, half an hour at the end of the day. And it was just maintenance, and that's all it was. But I think the thing I've got from lockdown is that I've just carved out that hour and a half a day. That's me time, and that's when I'm training. 100%. That's massive, and I'm definitely going to keep that to the point where I'm not going to book so many. I mean, I'm not doing so much one-to-one stuff now. Anyway, I'll probably talk about that later. But yeah, I'm definitely just going to space things out a little bit more in the day and just really slow down a little bit. And just take more time to do my own stuff that makes me happy. I mean, training other people makes us happy, but it's a different thing to when you actually just take that time to look after yourself and do your own stuff, right?
Well, it depends who you're training.
Well, yeah. I could mention some names here, but I won't. Yeah, that, and like, I mean, from a business point of view, the online stuff has been really good for me. And that was something that, again, before lockdown, I was thinking, I've got to do that. Never did it. But I've kind of been forced into doing it, and it's been a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you going to remove then? So that's the one thing that you're going to keep, your own training schedule, tie it in. What can't you wait to be over?
To be honest, there's the one thing, I mean, from a family point of view, from a grown-up point of view, it's bad for the children. The lack of socialization, so I'll be glad when that's over. Like Athena's asking me all the time, when can I go to a playground? When can I go to play group? I personally miss soft play. So yeah, any I booked a guy with drum and cymbal to sit in the corner, so you guys know when I do jokes. But unfortunately, because of lockdown, he's working remotely from home now, so it's all going to be a bit useless. Yeah, so from that point of view, from my own point of view, the thing I miss most is eating out. I love the laziness and the decadence of just going to a restaurant, looking at a menu, going, yeah, that. You don't worry about washing up. You don't have to cook anything. You just sit there. You get waited on. I love that, and I'm not a fan of how it's working at the minute. Even when things go back to normal, that you still got to sit at the table and you can't be in groups of more than however many people. So I want, when everything's 100% back to normal, that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to go to a nice restaurant and enjoy a nice meal and stay there for about 3 hours until they get bored of me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I miss the coffee shops.
Yeah.
I miss coffee shops big time, mate. Yeah, that's what I'm missing. So, yeah, going back to the training thing, like, I think every trainer's passion to train other people usually starts with their own passion for training, doesn't it? I mean, that's when we were at Fitness First, and this is how we met, right? Like, what was it, 12, 14 years ago? How long was it? I must have been, 22 maybe?
I don't even know what year it is at the minute. I reckon, 2007, 2008.
Yeah, I mean, we were proper into our training then.
Sorry, mate, I've just got to get Summer into shot.
Summer. Yeah, mate, we were murdering it back then. We were training 2, sometimes 3 times a day.
Insane. The ice spray and that was insane. Yeah, so for anyone who wants to be as mental as us, we used to spray ourselves with the ice spray that you meant to put on injuries. We used to spray that on before we started training because we knew how much it was going to hurt.
We'd get the ice spray out and spray the joints because we do like 100 pull-ups and 100 dips in a session, no problem, and then go and do some training. It was insane.
Yeah,
it was insane. So that's where we met in Fitness First. It was strange because you'd been in the game for a while before I joined. I was new. I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. I didn't know how to train people. I didn't even know how to train myself. I'd gone to PT.
Some would say nothing has changed, Alex. Some would say, I wouldn't say that, but some would say that.
Wait, I still have people program for me. Like, I don't do.
We'll talk about that later, mate. Me too. I think it makes you a better trainer. But
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't want to do my own programming because if I do my own programming, guess what? I'm just going to end up doing what I want to do.
Mate, I do pull-ups every day, pull-ups, and then in about every 3 weeks, I go, oh, what's up with my elbow? I've just done 100 pull-ups every day for the last 3 weeks. That's what's up with my elbow.
Yeah. So when I joined Fitness First, like there was 7 or 8 PTs at the time there dotting around. So as a newbie, like you look around and you see who's there. And I'm very much like, well, who can I learn off? Who can I learn off? So I used to watch you train your guys, and you were the only one that seemed to be like an instructor, like that would step back and watch and teach and like tell people to do it this way instead of that way. And the rest weren't like that. They were counters. They were watching. They were encouraging, but they weren't teaching. And I think that was the first difference I noticed between you and the rest. So I was like, right, I'm going to latch onto this guy, whether you want me to or not. I don't think you know this, but you're a bit of a mentor to me in those first couple of years, for sure.
No, to be honest, mate, every time you say that and you name check me and stuff, that really makes me happy because obviously I'm really proud of what you've done and how far you've come. And I mean, we look back at every now and then you post pictures, don't you? And you were like a child when you started at Fitness. I don't picture you being that. When I think back to that time, I don't picture you being that young, but you were literally like just sort of like virtually straight out, not out of school, but I mean, it was your first job in fitness, wasn't it? And it was.
Mate, I'd come from stacking shelves at Tesco for 5 years. I was terrified. Mate, I had terrible anxiety. Terrible. Like, I can't explain how hard it was for me to even get there. And then when you start as a self-employed PT, basically, dude, you know this. There you go, off you fucking go, try and get some clients. You're like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even know how to speak to people, let alone do a sales talk and fucking get cash off people and then train them. So, yeah, it's important. And, a lot of the guests I've had on the podcast we've spoke about male role models being so important. And again, this is not me blowing smoke. I'm not sure I would have made it. I'm not sure I would have lasted if you weren't there. I really don't.
Mate, I mean, that makes me happy. But I mean, I think you would because you're a stubborn mofo, aren't you? And I think you would have sucked it up and you'd have found a way to do it. But you're right. That environment is quite a toxic environment because there's other trainers. I mean, we had some incidents, didn't we, where other trainers were trying to cause trouble for us because we were quite tight and we were doing things that were a little bit of a grey area, shall we say, with the rules. But yeah, you're in an atmosphere where everyone's nice to your face, but they want you to fail. The guys that have been there for ages, nothing makes them happier than seeing a new PT come and leave again.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a crazy way of thinking, because I used to say to people all the time, that makes it harder for an established PT to get clients. If people see in a big gym, and I don't miss being in a big gym at all, but when you're in a big gym, if people see a high turnover of PTs, that makes them reluctant to commit to any sort of relationship with a PT and to do anything with a PT, because they just think, oh, is this guy going to be here next week, next month, next year? And when they see that high turnover, it's not. So it's not in anyone's interest to have that high turnover of PTs, but it is the way the industry goes. It's the way people's personalities are, I think, a lot of the time, in the way people react to what they perceive as competition, but probably isn't. I don't know if you remember this. I remember you saying to me once, how this is like, oh man, this must be like you say 12, 14 years ago. And I remember you saying to me, like, how would you feel if someone came in that knew more than you about kettlebells? And I said, like, I would actually love that, because I would do what you did to me. I'd follow that guy around. I'd watch him. I'd learn from him. That would be brilliant. And that's the environment that it should be, where people learn from each other. But it's not the environment that it is in fitness. It's a very, I mean, you probably one of my only friends in fitness, because there's so much sort of backstabbing and bitchiness. And say to everyone, I mean, you're literally definitely my oldest friend in fitness, because all my other friends are younger than you.
You haven't got any funnier. Not one bit.
That would have been funnier if the guy had hit the symbol. But yeah, it's and that's the sad thing about it. It probably happens in other industries, but I'm not aware of it. You're not aware of it, but definitely it's very prevalent in fitness.
It is, but unfortunately, I was one of those trainers, mate, who, yeah, when someone new would come along, I'd feel very threatened and insecure, because in my head they were going to take my business. Like, but that's why I was glad, because you used to say to me, I remember all the time, like, Alex, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't fucking matter. And I never used to understand what you were saying until I matured and understood what you were saying. But yeah, I think, like I say, having a role model is important, because there's, like I say, when you're 22 and you step into that, and it's a tough game, like it is a tough game. You want to have somebody to show you how to become a better, not only a better trainer, but just a better person, and to show you how to do it. So to train with you and then watch you teach other people was probably, well, it was not probably, definitely a better education for me than learning from the PT college, because I didn't really learn much. I just got my qualifications so I could get insured and get a job in a gym.
Yeah. I mean, and that's all. It's like I say this all the time. This analogy. It's like your driving test, isn't it? Passing your driving test doesn't make you a good driver, and that's another problem with the fitness industry right now. Is that it's so easy to become a PT. I mean, I don't know how we are with names and stuff, but like, you can edit this out later. Oh, we're live, aren't we? Fucking training room. It's a 2-week course. You're buying your qualification, and they're churning out kids. They're telling them a dream of like earning 50, 60, 70 grand a year. These kids are never going to earn that. They're lucky if they're still in business in 3 months' time, and it's horrendous for not just for them, but for people that actually then incorrectly, but they don't know this, look up to them and look to them for advice. And these guys can't give it, and it's not their fault. They're not handed the tools. They're just sent out, like you say, sent out with no support. And then they've suddenly got other people relying on them, asking them what to do, what should I eat, how should I train? They don't know.
Well, that's it. I think that was one of the things that appealed to me. It was like, you know, earn 35K, work when you want to work, and all this. And like, I was earning that in the end, but fucking hell, I was working every hour under the sun. Yeah. And you know, we were both there when those gym doors opened at 6 a.m. And we were often both there until they closed at 9 p.m.
Yeah,
it was brutal. It was brutal.
Sometimes we were there later than that, weren't we? And we got into trouble.
Well, this was the thing. So I was dating Cheryl at the time, who was, you know, lovely girl on reception, and she had keys to the gym, didn't she? So you know, we'd say, right, what we'll do is we'll do the most disgusting, horrible, brutal gym sessions that have ever been seen.
They really were, yeah.
Oh, they were horrible. That's what we did on behind, you know, when they were so horrible that it was, you know, carnage. There was fucking shirts were off, swearing, everything. And then, so yeah, one evening, I think there was 4 of us training, 4 guys in the gym.
Yeah, so snake, goat,
robot, and the general.
Yeah.
We were in the gym training. The gym closed at 9, so it's about half an hour. We were in the middle of the session, and Simon, who's called Goat, Simon was called Goat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He'd just done his set, and he was so fucked that he was on his hands and knees. And anyway, there's Craig then, the general, with his shirt off, sweating like hell, stood behind. He was on his knees, and then the gym manager walks in, kind of like big orgy or something, and we were lucky to keep our jobs for that one.
Yeah,
so,
couldn't make it up, could you? I think the only reason we did keep our jobs was that I think we had, between us, we probably had more clients than the other 10 trainers put together.
Yeah, I think that usually happens, doesn't it? When you've got a group of PTs, usually like 3 or 4 take all the clients. Yeah. But one of the things that I did that was quite smart was I just trained my mates for free in the evening. I just wanted to be seen on the gym floor. Like, didn't matter that I didn't know what I was doing. I just wanted to be seen. And walking up to people and asking them how they were and whether they wanted help never worked for me. Because they used to teach at PT school, go up to someone and basically correct them, tell them they're doing something wrong, and then tell them what to do. And then ask them if they want a PT session and try and sell to them. That never works. So, you just show your skills off. And like I said,
and that's what I remember about you. You were there as much as me. And I remember right from day one, I don't know how many clients I had. It was a lot. You had none on day one, but you were still doing those hours that the others weren't doing. And that's what made the difference for you. 100%. You had that work ethic right from the start that obviously you've carried on now and that you're instilling into other people now. But that was inside you right from the start. And that's why I think regardless of me being there or not, you would still have succeeded.
Yeah, I'm not sure, dude. I mean, I had 64 quid left in the bank account. So it was, I'd written I don't know if you know this, I'd written my resignation out and was on my way to number in. And that's when Big Ed came in and was like, I want a PT. I sat him down. He wanted to train like 5 times a week.
Yeah.
That was unheard of. Like, full-time trainer basically for him. And that saved me. And then I asked for a cleaning job in the gym. So I was doing cleaning treadmills and cleaning the floor with a mop and bucket just to get an extra few quid. So, I worked hard to do that. But that's what I mean. Just having a support, a friend there made it all the more bearable because they were tough. They were tough days. And, it was good to have a laugh and to learn how to train. Like, you taught me how to train. So, dude, how did you even get into the world of kettlebells? Because you're, like I said, one of the UK's most experienced kettlebell instructors. You've been taught by the best. You've done some amazing training, and you've taught me how to fling a kettlebell about. So, how did you even go down that route? Especially the fact that you were a former bodybuilder, which I'm assuming didn't come with playing with kettlebells.
Not at all. I mean, this we're talking like sort of late 80s, early 90s when I was into the whole like bodybuilding sort of training.
Yeah.
Damn
Chris. Go on, Chris.
Quality.
We've got some stories about Chris as well, haven't we?
Alex and I had a little chat about toilet breaks earlier because we're both drinking Corona, and I'm quite old, and Alex has got a notoriously weak bladder, so we are going to have toilet breaks. But I don't know if you remember. I remember Downsy, and I can't remember one of the other lads. They used to do this thing where they drink 2 litres of water first thing in the morning. Do you remember? As a bet. And Downsy will remember this. He'll tell me it was. I can't remember who it was. It was him and another lad. They used to drink 2 litres of water in the morning, and the bet was whoever went to the toilet first had lost. I can't remember who it was. Mental. They're the sort of things we used to do to pass our time working at a chain gym.
Yeah, he remembers. He says he remembers. I remember Chris telling people they were going to build swimming pools on top of the roof.
On the roof.
Yeah, absolute lunatic. But going back to your kettlebells. How did you get into the world of kettlebells?
So basically, I got to a point sort of early 2000s, 2005, 2006, where I had major lower back problems, just as a result of other stuff I'd done. I don't know what did it. I did a lot of martial arts, early 2000s, kickboxing, martial arts stuff where I was really working on improving my flexibility, doing a lot of high kicks and stuff, which in hindsight, now I know more about anatomy and physiology, doesn't really work with my sort of bone structure and how my hips and my pelvis are put together and stuff. Nothing to do with flexibility. It's just how I'm just built different, basically, not in a good way. I also done a lot of endurance running, so that's a lot of impact and a lot of pounding. I had some really bad back problems, and basically to the point where I was being advised to have an operation on my spine to fix it. Now, I spoke to several people that had this operation, one of whom was my cousin, and they basically said to me, look, if you can get away without it, don't do it, because 2 out of the 3 of these guys were in more pain after the operation than they were beforehand. So then I started casting around looking for things that would make my back stronger, that would basically fix this problem without surgery, because normal physio was just, it wasn't happening, it wasn't working. And every time I Googled stuff, and that was a big job, by the way, early 2000s, for anyone watching who's like under 40, Googling stuff in the early 2000s, that's like your whole evening's gone. It's dial up, it's that little noise, you're like, it takes 10 minutes to load a page, oh shit, it's not what I want, you go back to the start. It's a big job. But all that kept coming up was kettlebells, never heard of it. Tried to find someone in this country that taught it, and no one did it. So I ended up ordering a kettlebell that got shipped in from somewhere in, I think it was Denmark or Sweden. Schoolboy era, rubber coated kettlebell. I mean, I knew nothing about kettlebells. The whole thing's rubber coated, right? The handle as well. So every time you do a swing, it like sticks to your hands. So it like rips the skin off your hand. The selling point of it was that it doesn't mark the floor when you drop it. But that's brilliant, because you was dropping it every 2 minutes because you can't grip it because your hands are just like red raw. So anyway, I bought this kettlebell. Couldn't get them in England. I bought basically 3 of Pavel's books, Enter the Kettlebell being the main one, and then 2 subsequent ones which were more about sort of intricacies and programming stuff. But Enter the Kettlebell was the main one for me, and I just worked through that. And this is something that no one does anymore. I just worked through that literally page by page, just copying all the drills, teaching it myself, and that's how I got into it. And then once I got into it enough, I thought, right, this shit works. If it's worked for me, it'll work for other people. And it was something that I just really felt passionate about, that I wanted to get into. And that's when I went down the route of finding out how to certify. And again, now you can certify in England, but at the time I went to Denmark, I went to America just to do my certifications. That's the only way you could do it back then.
I think that's even cooler though. Like the fact that you had to go to Denmark and America. I mean, how exciting does that sound? Like now you could, like you say, nip up the road and probably get taught by someone who's not as good. Yeah, that's funny. But that's interesting, because most people assume kettlebells cause backache, right? In fact, we've got a question here, Craig, from Cam. Kettlebell specific question: how do you prevent back injuries from swinging the kettlebell? 3rd lockdown, kettlebell injury, upper back ruined. I know, Cam. I can answer this probably for you. If she listens a little bit better.
Go on. No, so the flippant answer, and it's just a one-line answer to get your technique right. Yeah. Kettlebell can't hurt you. Yeah, look, hang on. Just because I'm me, right? Nah, it's not hurt me at all. Kettlebell can't hurt you. It doesn't do anything. What you do with that kettlebell will hurt you. So you've got some problem. I don't know what area that your back's hurting. There's some problem in your technique, whether it's swings that are hurting it, snatches that are hurting it. There's some problem in your technique there, Cam, that's doing that. And it's something that you're repeating, obviously, over and over again. And that's what's causing it. So without seeing her swing, sorry, Cam's male or female?
Female. Sorry,
one of those names. Yeah, without seeing your technique, Cam, sorry, I wouldn't know what the problem is. Alex, you seem to know what the problem is already, but...
No, to be fair, I mean, would you say that, like, if you've already got a lower back injury and then you're swinging on top of an already kind of present injury, could that be another reason that the injury's there, lying there? So it's like saying it's not the technique, it's not the swing, it's the fact that you're actually injured right now. Is that an option?
Yeah, if that movement, if that hinging movement hurts your back anyway,
yeah,
then you adding a load to it and a force and an acceleration is obviously not going to make it feel any better. Your lower back should do like no work during a kettlebell swing. It's a hinge and a plank. So you hinge back, you stand up straight, and you plank. So your lower back shouldn't be under any stress. So yeah, maybe if there's an underlying issue there already, but that's being stressed by the movement, not the kettlebell.
Should we try and get the? Shall I try and bring that kettlebell swing video up that you've got? Yeah, I think Cam might do. Again, forgive me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not that up to date on the kettlebell terminology. I think it might be called is it the American kettlebell swing, Craig?
Right. Okay. So here's your problem, Cam. Firstly, stop going to CrossFit. Okay.
Cam does go to CrossFit. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well,
did.
So, if I'm in danger of going down a CrossFit wormhole here.
Fuck it. Come on, let's go.
Right. So CrossFit cert, it's a 2-day cert, and they teach you about 27 different things. There's no way anyone who's done a CrossFit cert and then walked into a CrossFit gym to teach is teaching you how to swing properly. I'll guarantee you that. And yeah, come at me, CrossFit. I don't care. You can DM me on Instagram. You can give me anything you want. Send me your swing videos. I'll tell you what's wrong with them. The American swing, I mean, you know what a shoulder dislocate is? Cam, if you're watching, you know what a shoulder dislocate is. You get a band, you do that, you take it over your head, right? You bring it back. It's a shoulder exercise. It's a mobility exercise. The idea is you bring your hands closer and closer into your head and you come all the way over. But again, with a band or a pole. There's no way in the world that you could do that with your hands touching, okay? Your shoulders aren't built that way. When you do an American swing, you're forcing them to do that. So you're asking for an injury there. And if you're saying that's an upper back injury, then yeah, sorry, it's the American swing that's doing it.
How is there so much confusion then? If, like, you know, you've got like an industry that's trying to teach people the same thing, how can you have such confusion when it's probably such basic, like, you know, basic rules and quite clear about what the problem is? Where do these things come from? How do they even exist? These controversies and differences of opinion. I
think this, and again, this is a society thing. I think without getting too deep and, you know, psychology and stuff, no one wants to sell something, or no one thinks they can sell something by being good at it. They think they've got to sell it by being different to someone else. So I don't see myself as in competition with any other kettlebell instructors just as well, because my wife's one. So that would be a horrendous domestic arrangement. But I've got, you know, I said to you, you're my oldest friend in fitness. The other friends I've got are all kettlebell instructors.
Yeah.
Big Al, right? You know Al Pritchard, yeah? I mean, me and him are massively, really good friends. Never any hint that we're in competition with each other, because we're not. And we'll just work together and we'll trade clients off, as you and I have done. We talked about Big Ed earlier. You know, we both train Big Ed. He's probably watching this, by the way, because he did mention it. He's given me a couple of pointers of things that he would like me to bring up, but I'm refusing to do so. But I think people aren't confident enough in themselves to say, well, I teach kettlebells and that's what I do, and this is what I'm going to teach. They've got to say, oh, yeah, I teach kettlebells different to him, so come to me because my way's different, my way's better. And I think there's always that desire to differentiate yourself from other people, and I think it stems from insecurity. That why can't we all just say, look, we teach kettlebells. I'm an RKC, I teach kettlebells. If you go to my friend Terence down in London, he's an RKC, he teaches kettlebells. He'll teach exactly the same stuff as me. And that's because we teach the correct way of doing it. So there's nothing to choose between us. You know, it's just you do this and that's how it works. Then when you come along and you build something up like a system or a cult like CrossFit, you've got to be seen to be different from other people, and you've got to be seen to be doing different things. And that's where I think these things come from.
Do you know what? That's Instagram and social media all over, isn't it? Because now to get attention on Instagram, it's no longer good enough to put out good information. You can't put out good information and get lots of attention. Like, so you have to put out different content or more offensive content, or you have to say something that's going to get people rolled up. So it becomes a game of like who can get the most eyes on them. And I think training becomes a bit like that as well. Dude, let me see if I can bring this video. I don't know how well it will go into the stream, whether it will run well, but let's get it in there and see if we can bring it up. If it loads. It might take a while to come into sync.
Yeah, so that's not real time. Obviously, you would that in real life.
Let me just see if I can load that up again. I don't know. It's the first time I've tried these videos on here.
It sounds working. I mean, it sounds good. Unless that's something else you're watching on your other screen. I don't know.
There we go.
There we go. Actually, it works all right, slow down, because it lets you see what's going on there. So, actually, you hinge. Oh, okay, now it's all gone wrong. But we're hinging in there, and then at the top, you can see everything coming on. You can see my glutes firing, my core's coming on. That's a really solid plank at the top. So at no point is my lower back arching or bending, rounding, or anything like that. Everything's just solid all the way through. I just marvel at my beautiful top knot there in that video as well. A bit of quality from last lockdown.
Well, glutes are looking all right as well, lad.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, I didn't think you noticed that. Cheers.
Thank you. I noticed. You're looking in good nick, mate.
Thank you.
Right, Cam, there you go. So you can see that you're bringing it, what, just to below shoulder height? Or
chest height. Get your shoulders back and down, retracted, which again you can't do if you're going into that American swing. So Cam, if you want to message me, Cam, on Instagram, I will send you 27 messages back regarding problems with the American swing, CrossFit, and anything else you care to mention. And but yeah, that's your problem. Stop doing American swings. Go to a kettlebell instructor that can teach you, like Alex, like me, like Al Pritchard, that will teach you how to swing a kettlebell, what we call hard style swings.
Dude, if anybody wants to learn kettlebells, I'd send them your way.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, I haven't got the patience. I remember doing a kettlebell course with you, and it was amazing. But it was all built around the swing, because, like you told me, unless you can swing properly, good luck doing a swing to clean and press or a snatch or anything. So, like, learning the swing is the number one rule. So yeah, you hammered me because I had a 6 kilo kettlebell in my gym, and you said the only good thing that was for a doorstop. So
I still think that was a joke. That was your mum's, wasn't it? I still think that was a joke. In fact, it's too light for your mum. Your mum messages me every now and then. She's stronger than that now. So
well, I think my mum and my sister's got a 6 kilogram kettlebell, and I always copy you and say the lines that you would say, like, oh, that's only good enough for a doorstop, but then I can't really back it up as to the reasons why. So anyway,
for anyone watching, I mean, that's quite a common female thing to go with, like, the smallest weight you can because you're told that you're not strong. But the swing uses all the muscles in your lower body that women are typically stronger than men with, like your glutes, your hamstrings, all your lower body stuff. And you're just basically told by society that you're not strong, but you are. And with the kettlebell that light, physiologically and mentally, neurologically, you're not getting enough feedback from it to tell you what you're doing right and wrong. It's too, when you do an exercise, the weight is too light. You can't feel where it's working. You can't feel what's meant to be working, so you don't know if you're doing it wrong. You kid yourself that you're doing it right. You can't feel anything, so you go heavier and heavier and heavier until the point where it kind of finds you out that your technique actually has been wrong all along, and you've hurt yourself. So yeah, there's nothing in my gym smaller than an 8, and we very rarely use those.
Yeah, and it's the myth, even though me and you both know this is not possible. I think there's just this assumption for women that, bigger weights are going to make you bulky, no matter whether it's a kettlebell or a weight. It's just the fact that if it looks bigger and it weighs more, it's going to increase that all in, like, it's going to get you massive, basically. So yeah, you became, like I say, the expert in kettlebells. You were always the main man to go to. But how did you transition from, like, former bodybuilder into, you couldn't be any different. Former bodybuilder, ultra distance runner at national kind of level. Yeah. So how on earth did you transition from
basically,
those?
I'll tell you what, there's one guy who's responsible for this, and I'm really saddens me that I'm not in touch with him anymore, and I don't know what's happened to him. A guy so bit of background, I first walked into a gym when I was 16 years old, a gym called Forge in Coventry, which is now, I think it's called Future Fitness now. Clint's place. Yeah. I don't think Clint's anymore. Down on Gosford Street. And I'd been in there probably 3 or 4 times before I was 16, saying to the guy that owned it, Steve Walden, can I come and train? Can I come and train? And I'll tell you why I wanted to train in a minute, because it's a ridiculous story. Can I come and train? Can I come and train? And he was like, how old are you, mate? I was like, 15. He's like, no, come back when you're 16. So I'd go back the next week. And he'd go, can I train? And he'd go, how old are you, son? I'd go, 15 still, Steve. Because I didn't have the brains to lie to him. And he'd say, no, come back. And eventually he said, look, when's your fucking birthday? I was like, June the 25th. He goes, right, come back on June the 25th. I'll teach you how to train. So I did that. I went in there, and that's when I started training. So from that sort of age. And it was a bodybuilder. It was a spit and sawdust. It was the sort of gym that you don't see a lot of anymore, which is quite sad. It's a real spit and sawdust gym. The guys that were in there, all guys that had been, there was no qualifications in those days, guys. So any of you guys watching this that are PTs, you probably might find this a bit shocking. There were no PTs in those days. People just used to go and train. And the older guys in the gym that had been there for a while did what I did with Alex when Alex started. They helped the younger guys. And that was just how it was. And those guys, again, no internet, right? So they just learned from doing stuff, trial and error on themselves. They learned from actual buying books and reading them, which, again, is something people don't do a lot of anymore. And yeah, I'm convinced them, and I said this to someone the other day, you could go into one of those sorts of gyms, and there were 2 gyms in Coventry in the 1980s. There was the Forge and the Olympia, which was in, I don't know what it's called. Is it the Burgess in Coventry? You know where the taxi rank used to be? You know where all the fights used to be when you went out in Coventry? Yeah, so the Olympia used to be above there, like was it the KFC?
Yeah, it did. It did. That got voted the most violent street in Europe at one point.
Oh, Coventry.
Yes.
Teen pregnancy capital of the UK and the most violent street in Europe. That's how we roll in Coventry. Don't come visit me.
Yeah. You started lifting weights then at a young age and got into stacking on.
Got into bodybuilding because that was all they used to teach. But yeah, I'm convinced you could take any of those guys out of one of those gyms, put them into a gym now, and they'd be like the best PT in the gym just because they had that knowledge, no qualifications, no AMP knowledge. They couldn't tell you what this was or what this was or what this was, but they knew how to train it and they knew how to fix it if it went wrong. But they were the guys that were giving me advice, and obviously they used to take the piss out of me, and I was the little rat in the gym, and they used to bully me and stuff, but in a good-natured way. But all they did, it was a real bodybuilding place. There was one guy in there, a guy called Phil James. In the unlikely event that anyone watching this knows him or knows of him, or even Phil, if you're watching it, please tell him to get in touch with me. I'd love to know what's happened to him and catch up with him. But Phil was a fireman, and he'd been in an accident where he'd fallen out of a tree, fallen off a ladder. I don't know what the accident was. He'd broken his back. Right now, again, this is 1980s, right? So technology to fix that sort of thing was not like it is now. I mean, that's a serious injury now.
Yeah.
In the 1980s, the guy was lucky to not be in a wheelchair. Yeah. But not only was he not in a wheelchair, he was just like the strongest bloke I'd ever seen. And again, gyms are very different in that time. There weren't, you walk into a gym now, this is like kids in there, 22, 23. They've been training 3 months. They're geared off the tits. It's just what they do. They go into a gym. They take gear. It's just what they do. Back in the day, there'd be like two guys in a gym of like 50, 100 people that were on gear, and everyone would know who they were and would laugh at them, right? But so Phil was on none of that, and he was like the strongest guy. I mean, he used to do pull-ups. He used to do this routine where he'd do one pull-up, one dip, with like 10k around his waist. Then he'd add 2.5k, one pull-up, one dip. He'd add 2.5k, one pull-up, one dip, and he'd just keep going until he couldn't do it anymore, and then he'd drop back down again. And if that sounds familiar to you, that's the sort of shit we used to do, right? And this is where it all comes from.
Yeah.
And he said, so I used to really look up to this guy. And he said to me one day, I was doing some sort of leg workout, and he said to me, he says, what are you doing there then? I said, I'm making my legs bigger, Phil, massive legs. Yeah, mate. He says, Welsh he was as well, it's made him funny. He says, he says, you know what your legs are for, don't you? I said, well, yeah, I just want big legs. He says, what are they for though? So for walking and running, Phil. He says, that's right. He says, your legs are for running. He says, so what's the point having legs so big? You can't fucking walk properly.
I thought you said he was Welsh.
Sorry?
I thought you said he was Welsh.
Yeah, so no, he was Pakistani. I do all the accents, but they all end up the same.
Mine always end up Jamaican. I don't know why. They always end up Jamaican. My
You are not a lot of people know Alex is in fact quarter Jamaican. From his colouring. So that at the time he said it, I was like, oh, what does he know? And then I thought, oh, actually, he knows shit loads because he's had a broken back and he's still the strongest bloke I know, so he actually knows his shit. And he used to do things that now you wouldn't think were abnormal, but at the time he'd train his chest and then he'd go for a run and then he'd come back and do some pull-ups, and then he'd go for a run, and you're like, what's he doing? Like, people don't do that. Why don't they just do chest day like the rest of us?
Yeah.
So that eventually that sunk in, and I thought I need to change what I'm doing. I need to do something differently. And that's when I ended up training like him and throwing stuff like runs and that into my training. And that's when, because of the nature of my personality, I kind of then became obsessed with something else, which was, instead of how much weight can I lift or how big can I make my arms, it was like, oh, I wonder how far I can run. Because I couldn't run fast, but I thought, I wonder how far I can run. And then that's how I got into the whole ultra running stuff. And then because I did miss a little bit the physical side of things, that was when I also then got into like the martial arts side of things as well, and boxing and stuff like that. And that's why I don't know where that injury came from that I had, and that led me down the kettlebell road. So it could have been either of those things.
So when you say you got into ultra running, what was the furthest distance that you covered in one event or one run?
So one event was 75 miles in 24 hours.
Wow.
And that's on a track, by the way. So you just run around a track every 4 hours to make it interesting. You change direction. So what I loved about that was the mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because I think with a lot of things that I've done in my life, looking back on my life, this being one of them, I think one of the reasons I do well at stuff is not because and you've trained with me, and you know how we think the same. One of the reasons I do well at stuff is not because I'm better than other people. It's just because I don't fucking quit. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, and I can be in a race or in a ring or on a mat or in a gym with someone who's technically better than me, faster, stronger, tougher, whatever. But I know I'm not going to quit, and that's even in sport and athletics. That's not always the deep down, like, ingrained mindset. You can get in the heads of a lot of people, and just as soon as they realize you're not going to quit, that screws with their head. And I think that's quite an important. It's been an important thing in my life that's got me through a lot of situations, like including lockdown. It's like people are saying to me, like, "Oh, is your gym going to close?" Like, no, I said, "Fuck," because I'm not going to let it. I'm not going to quit.
Yeah, and we had Matty Evans on last week, and we were talking about this. When it comes to mental health and getting through tough times, people that have trained often use that as the kind of like the reference point. Like this, I know I'm tough. I know I don't quit because I train, and I train well, and I train hard. So I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, training's huge. Training's massive. Training's huge. So, dude, we'll talk about your fighting and martial arts in a minute, and your trips to Russia and so on. Because I'm really interested in hearing about that. But what would you say has been the toughest thing you've ever done? So you've experienced, some pretty extreme kettlebell exams and tests. You've experienced ultra running. You've experienced fist fighting, boxing. Like, you've been there and done it. So, like, what's demanded the most of you at any point?
Physically or mentally or both?
Well, let's go physically first.
Physically, I'm probably going to say the first Russian fist fighting workshop that I went to.
So glad you said that. I'd been so disappointed if you said a run was harder than a fucking a Russian fist fight.
Yeah, purely because we didn't. I went with, you remember Big Pete Edkins? Me and Pete went to this thing. We rocked up to this thing. Didn't have a clue what it was about. I've been contacted by. So, story is, when I did my first kettlebell cert in Denmark, there was a Russian guy on it who I met at the train station in Copenhagen on the way to the cert, and really funny. We both just like, so there's all these like normal Danes around, who are all like strikingly good looking. All look like models. If you've ever been to Scandinavia, it's really makes you aware of how physically inadequate you are if you go to Scandinavia, because they've all got the Viking gene. They all look like models. Yeah. So me and this guy Vadim Kolganov, we were there, and like with the shaved heads and our army trousers on, and we both just looked at each other and we went, "Yeah, for the kettlebell cert, yeah." We both knew we were on the same team. So basically stayed in touch with Vadim, and he's the guy I ended up fighting for the British title.
Okay.
4 years later, but I stayed in touch with him. And he put me in touch via Facebook. So I was on Facebook at the time. He put me in touch with a guy called Darren Richardson, who was the head of the UK Russian Fist Fighting Association. He was running these workshops. And he said, "Oh, Vadim said to me, you should go on this. It looks like it's your sort of thing." So I tapped Pete up about it, because Pete, doesn't feel pain, does he? He's not human, Pete Edkins. And so we both rocked up for this thing, didn't have a clue what to expect. And mate, it was horrendous. Like, I mean, the first hour was a warm-up, and we were like, it was boiling hot, middle of summer. Both of us, I remember going outside at the end of the warm-up, just pouring water over my head, cold water, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be sick in a minute. I'm going to be sick." Like, don't be sick. Don't embarrass yourself. And that was the warm-up. And you were like, so that is 100% the hardest thing I've ever done. We stopped at a motorway service station on the way back because we were starving. And we both just went to the service station, and we just got whatever food was on the middle shelf, because it was the only thing we could reach. We couldn't reach up to get anything, and we couldn't like bend down to get anything. So we both just got the same, whatever it was, packet of crisps that was on the middle shelf. It was the only thing we could reach. It was horrendous. I had bruises. I don't know if I knew you at that time, but
because I was worried about it. I was worried about you going. Yeah. I was worried about what state you were going to come back in, but you wanted to go. So what's been the mentally most demanding then? Because I'm going to take a shot here and say it's got to be running around the same track for 75 miles.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right about a Russian fist fight as well.
Because, I mean, there's nothing makes you aware of the passage of time than the fact that you've got to run around the track for 24 hours, and the time goes really, really weirdly.
So what goes through your head when you're doing that kind of event? Like, how do you pass it on?
Absolutely everything. So what happens is at certain points, because bear in mind, no one's running fast, right?
Yeah.
Some people aren't even, I mean, I didn't. You don't even run for the whole time. Some of it you're walking, but the more time you spend on the track instead of stepping off it and resting, you can step off whenever you want. But the more time you spend on the track, the more time you're moving, obviously the greater distance you're going to cover. So no one's running fast. So you can always, like, at times you'll buddy up with someone and you'll do, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 miles just with the same person, just chatting and swapping stories and stuff. And that kind of keeps your brain active. It's the times when it's like 3 a.m, there's not many people on the track and you're on your own. That's when your brain just starts thinking, like, hey, fuck you doing, Craig? Why are you doing this? Like, and people used to go to me, oh, how much money did you raise for charity? And I'm like, didn't do it for charity, just did it for fun. Fuck.
Yeah. Why did you do that? Like I said, that's insane, right? Well, firstly, like, how, like, do you win? Like, is it the person that does the most?
Person does the most miles. So there's lap count. There's a counter for everyone, right? So everyone in the race has a counter. So and he's your best friend, by the way, because you see that guy like every 2 minutes for like 24 hours. So like, but yeah, you have a counter. So it's just the guy that's done the most laps that's basically done the most distance. So that year I did my best ever performance, 75 miles. I came something like 10th, 11th. I think it was 11th actually, because I was pissed off I didn't break top 10 in the country. The guy that won it did 122 miles in 24 hours.
Wow.
That's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
That is, that's pretty epic.
And you know what? For anyone that's into nutrition and energy systems, do you know what the guy ate for the whole race? Because he's next to mine.
Sweets.
Ravioli, cold ravioli, and honey. That was all he ate. He drank tons of water, cold ravioli out the tin, and he was literally just like honey into his, like squeezy cream, honey into his mouth.
Mate, I bloody love that tinned ravioli stuff.
But you wouldn't eat for 24 hours, right?
Were you a vegan at that time?
No, I was vegetarian. I wasn't vegan.
You're vegetarian. When did you have you always been vegetarian? Like, is that how you were brought up and even when you were bodybuilding?
Kind of. No. So my mum was vegetarian. My mum turned vegetarian when I was about 16, 17, which obviously had a massive influence on me. When I was bodybuilding, I wasn't. When I became vegetarian, probably sort of early 20s, something like that. And that was the time when I went into the different things and away from that. Well, I'd say away from thinking I needed that massive amount of protein. So obviously, I don't know how deep you want to get into nutrition and stuff, but vegetarian and veganism and nutrition is quite a niche subject. But yeah, I was vegetarian when I did that, and I've been vegan at times in my life, and I've kind of tick-tock between the two. But veganism, I think, and I don't know, any vegans watching will probably get pissed off with this. I think it's quite hard to have a fully balanced diet as a vegan. So I think that is hard, and that's why I don't always do it. I think if you just want to be Joe Bloggs in the street, I think you could be a vegan quite happily. But when you're training at the sort of levels that we like to train at, and I'm never going to do anything competitive anymore, but I still want to perform at a high level because I want to be able to train people at a high level, and I don't want them to look at me and go, yeah, but you can't do this shit. So I still want to be able to do stuff, and I think that's not necessarily compatible with a vegan diet.
Yeah, I don't think there's many world-class vegan athletes.
No, I think, and you'll get the odd one. Like, I don't know, was Ryan Giggs, was he vegan or something like that? You get the odd one, but the point is, it is the odd one, and that's why you've heard of them. It's not a load. It's not a load of them. And I'd love to be, from a moral and ethical point of view. I love animals. I'd love to be a vegan, but it's just, you've got to draw a line somewhere between being practical and being the person you want to be in an ideal world, and they're not always the same thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So let's go back to what I'm really interested in, the Russian fist fighting, and I'm not sure why I didn't quiz you on this. Maybe we just started to get to know you, and I think during the build up to that, you went a bit lone wolfish, because I think you were getting in the zone.
Yeah.
Weeks before you went, and you were like that when you had your kettlebell, because I remember standing at your side helping you do it. I think there was some kind of like snatch test where you had to do 100 snatches in like 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
And you used to be so close every time. You used to have to push yourself. That's when I knew. I used to think that I trained hard, and then I trained with Glenn Smith and I trained with you, and I realised I didn't train that hard. And watching you do that 5-minute snatch test, which I eventually went on to do myself, that was tough.
But I think it's different. You know, when you said to me, what's the toughest thing you've done? You mentioned Glenn Smith, right? I remember one day, this is probably ranked up there, and it's a ridiculous thing. I remember going into Red Corner to train one day because I used to live not far from there. I remember going into Red Corner one day, Friday afternoon, and there's no one in there, just Glenn. And he went, "Oh, I'm glad you're here, Craig." And I thought, "Oh, that's nice." He went, "Yeah, I've had a shit day. Do you want to spar?" And I'm like,
That's the last thing you want to hear Glenn Smith say to you.
I can't say no, but the facts are, Glenn wants to spar and he's had a shit day. It's not going to be a happy ending in any sort of way, shape, or form.
Craig, I'm going to disagree with you right there. If I went to the Red Corner and it was just Glenn Smith and he said, "Alex, I've had a shit day. Do you want to spar?" I'll say, "No fucking way." No chance, because I've been in the ring with Glenn. Anyway, carry on, because that guy's
Yeah, no, you haven't really. I remember that, yeah. Yeah, you were worried about that at the time. But I think what you say is true. There's always, and it's something that I think about even now, I think there's always someone training harder than you. There's always someone that's going to be putting that extra bit in. And I think that's what I try and think about when I'm training now, that even though in some ways it doesn't matter. Like I say, I'm never going to do anything competitive anymore. But I still want to do the best that I can. And sometimes it's quite hard to do that in isolation. Sometimes you need that little external boost. And this is why we talked about having trainers. Sometimes you need that external push, A, as an accountability tool, and B, just because it's someone that's going to take you out your comfort zone. They're going to program stuff for you that you don't like and you wouldn't do yourself.
Absolutely. Did Glenn beat you up then when you got in the ring with him?
No, I think it was a draw. But yeah,
that could be. Yeah, he was a good boxer. Glenn's an excellent boxer, isn't he?
I can't remember ever sparring with Glenn where I even vaguely thought, "Oh, I've done all right there." So yeah,
it's just horrible. He's just horrible. Well, he's a lovely guy, and then you get him in the ring, and he's just horrible.
Red mist, yeah,
he's horrible. So, what are the rules in Russian fist fighting? Then is it exactly how it sounds? You have a fight with kind of like either small gloves or bare knucks.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So the rules are. So now when I say the rules, it'll sound insane, and I'll think I don't really understand why I wanted to do that. So yeah, they're the rules. You can't step backwards.
Can't step backwards.
Can't step backwards. You've got to go forwards at all time. So you can't stand off and like hit someone at long range with your jab. There's none of that nonsense. You've got to go
boxing. You don't box.
No, if you watch it, it looks messy. I mean, it looks almost like kids scrapping in the playground. It looks so messy because you've just got two people going at each other. I mean, when Pete and I used to spar, when we used to train in between certs and stuff, we used to, the 6x4 gym mats.
Yeah.
We used to do it on there, and the way we used to score it was whoever stepped off the mat had lost a point, and like that because that was the fight you could. It's like a fight in a phone box, literally. So there's no stepping back. There's no gouging. You can hold and hit. That's fine. You can elbow. It's all like that 12-6, anything like that. It's all good. And just basically no holding on for too long because the ref gets pissed off and separates you and makes you fight again. So yeah.
So what kind of possessed you to go? Like, was this something to prove? Was this a challenge? Was this just you kind of testing uncharted waters, or what was your reason for going?
So in the first place, purely because this guy had said to me, "Oh, you'll like this," and then when you rock up to it, you're like, "Don't know if I will like this actually," but you're there and you do it, and then the feeling after it, the skills that you've learned. I don't know if you remember, we had a little spar not long after I'd done that, and I remember you saying to me that was like fighting someone totally different because of how it had changed the way that I was fighting from an aggression point of view. And still now, I did some pads with Matty probably 2 years ago. We're talking about Matty Evans over in, when we were doing the Greco-Roman, we did a session where we just did some pads. Yeah. And I found it really confusing because half the time I was trying to stand off him and box, and the other half the time I was trying to go step into the pads, and I was quite confused. I think he was quite confused by what I was doing. I think he thought I didn't have a clue, basically. But yeah, just because I was stuck between those two different ways of thinking. But I think, initially it was because I didn't know what I was getting into. But then after that, it was because I'd learned a lot of skills that I think, and one of the things I get a kick out of is, not in an arrogant way, but I like to know things that other people don't know. I like to be able to do things that other people can't do. And that's that's why I got into the endurance running stuff. Like, fuck running a marathon. Like, you know, my grandma's probably run a marathon. Hilda next door, Fat John up the road. They've all run marathons. It's no biggie. Anyone can run a marathon. It's good to have a goal. I'm not belittling that. It's good to have a goal, but don't think you're an athlete because you've run a marathon. It's no big deal. Like you. So I've run 2 marathons in the last 4 or 5 years. I haven't trained for any. I haven't done any running. I've just run them with a client, and that and he didn't do any training either, by the way, because he had a massively dodgy hip and he couldn't run. He just had this goal that he wanted to do a marathon. So we basically we did them together, and I just stuck with him, and we did it in probably about 6 hours because he spent the last 3 miles just stretching every 10 minutes because his hip was locking up.
Yeah.
Got overtaken by a guy dressed as an armadillo on the finishing straight, which was cool. But yeah, I kind of like that, doing things that other people can't do, and having that like almost like secret sort of knowledge, but not in an arrogant way, not in look what I know, because then I like to be able to spread that on, pass that on to other people. And I think as well, I've done a lot of sports that I wasn't really happy with, not because there's anything wrong with them, but just because I wasn't that great at them. Like, and I just thought, I think once I'd done the ultra running, and I was like, say, quite close to like being top 10 in the country at one point, I thought in my head, well, this is how good I am at sport now. So I thought, like, if I box, I should be that good, and I never was. Glenn will tell you that. If I do martial arts, I should be that good, like I never was. And I wanted to find something that I felt like I was good enough at, and that, for whatever reason, that turned out to be it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, when we're talking like fighting and street fighting, I do think a lot of the time the aggressor will win in a street fight, like over style, because a lot of it comes down to, can you handle the heat? Because I'm sure you've got into an outside scuffle before. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Terrifying. You could die.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you remember, there's a guy, I won't mention any names, but this is probably 8-9 years ago. There was a guy in Coventry at Mills's. Got killed in Mills's, but in a fight, just because the way he fell and he banged his head. And it's like, it was a freak accident, but that could happen to anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrifying, but yeah, I think, like you say, in a street fight situation, having that Russian fist fighting mentality of I'm not going to step back will probably win you 90% of fights. Just being.
And the other thing, I mean, it is all aggression. That's all it is. It's just offense. It's no people come to me and go, I want to learn it for self-defense. Like, you're pissing into the wind, mate. It's not self-defense. You're not going to tie anyone up, put them in an arm lock, hold them till the police arrive. You're not going to do any of that shit. Yeah. It works on the fact that you hit the guy before he hits you. And it all comes from like Russian military. So that's where it comes from. And it's about like being offensive and being, like you said, being the aggressor and just getting in there first.
Is it legal?
Nah, probably not. Yeah. Yeah. No, it is, mate, because
it's like Fight Club or something. That's what it sounds like.
To be honest, that's what it felt a little bit like. When Pete and I went up for that first national championship we did, when I fought Vadim, like, we rocked up there, and it's in Glasgow to start off with. So, I mean, like, you're in a like quite harsh environment. No, if anyone from Glasgow is watching, I mean, you must know the score, right? It's quite a harsh environment anyway. And then we pull up, and like we get to the hall, and it's like there's 2 ambulances outside, and you're like, what have we got ourselves into here? Do you know what I mean? It's not like they're going to wait and call an ambulance. They'll just have them there anyway, just to be on the safe side. And you're like, shit, yeah.
Well, dude, I remember the first time me and you had a fight. With, we put our boxing gloves on, and I thought, I was quite confident at the time because I was young. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And then before you rang the bell, you took your teeth out and plopped them on the side. I thought, I'm in trouble here. This guy's obviously, I didn't know what you'd done before or anything. And I mean, me and you used to, again, that's another thing you taught me. You pretty much taught me how to have a bit of a fight.
Yeah, and we used to every Friday we used to have a bit of a spar, didn't we? Yeah.
Friday we used to do, yeah.
Yeah, they were good times, mate. But I remember then, I mean, that's again what I was talking about with your attitude. You used to hate those days, but you used to turn up and do it. You could have made every week. You could have come up with an excuse. I've got a client, Craig. I've got a bit of a niggle. I've got a date with Cheryl on reception. I don't want to get a bruise. And like, but you didn't. You did. I knew you hated it, but like,
Cheryl loved it, mate. Cheryl, women. I don't care what women say. They like a little bit of a guy who can handle himself a little bit. But yeah, I mean, dude, we used to come down, like, I had blood up bursting out my nose, and we used to come down and have coffee in the lounge. I'd have blood all over my shirt.
You remember that day I went down into Tesco's with blood on my shirt, and I didn't know I'd got it on my shirt, and everyone was like staring at me and walking around me like, giving me like a 3-meter exclusion zone. I was like, what the fuck's wrong with all these people? I got back upstairs and my shirt was just like splattered in blood. Like
But you know what? One of the best things for my anxiety, Craig, and my toughness as a young lad who was scared of everything was learning how to take a punch and throw a punch back. Yeah. Like, it was terrifying. I'm not going to lie to you. I hated it. I used to, hope that you wouldn't bring it up and that you might say we won't do it.
Let's have a week off, yeah.
Yeah, but it taught me so much, man. Like, and I'd still be terrified if we had to spar now, but again, there's something doing it when you do it with someone that you trust and you know is not just going to take the piss and smash you up for the sake of it.
Yeah,
you do learn at the same time. So what a great game, what a great skill to learn.
100%. And this is what I think people outside of it. I mean, combat sports have quite a bad rap, don't they? And there's a lot of people going, "Oh, this should be banned, that should be banned." And I get there's a certain amount of voyeurism that I don't think is very healthy. I remember, you won't remember this, you two. I remember there's a fight between a guy called Dennis Andrews. Do you remember him? British light heavyweight, and Jeff Fennick, who's an Australian. It might have been a cruiserweight, actually. I remember seeing them fight, and it was in the days when boxing was on normal telly. And it was like 12 rounds, and these guys just went at each other for 12 rounds. It was absolutely so brave, so physically fit, so strong, incredible fight. And I just remember going in the next day to wherever I was working at the time, and people going, "Oh, that fight was shit when it didn't even knock him out." And you're just like, people are watching that for the wrong reason. And I think, like you say, that the actual discipline and the courage of it, that's why I think stuff like that's great for kids to do, whether it's martial arts or BJJ or just normal like Western boxing. I think it's a brilliant. I know Glenn does a lot of work with kids, doesn't he, up at Red Corner? And I think it's a great thing for kids to do. And people that haven't done it don't understand that discipline that it gives you, and like you said, the mastery over your own fear that it gives you and things like that, because you learn that I'm frightened, I don't want to do that, I don't want to get in that ring with that guy, but I'll do it anyway, and nothing bad happened. So it's not the end of the world. So, well, all right, sometimes bad things do happen, but you're still alive, right? So yeah, I think it's in quite contrast to the way that children or a lot of people want to bring children up nowadays, and I don't think it's necessarily the right thing.
It's interesting because you hear like Matty's obviously in a very different place to what he used to be, because now he's very anti-violence and doesn't think that you need to have a fight, to become more manly or to learn your trade. But I kind of flip the argument around and say I think it's good for every young lad to, like you say, be disciplined, to learn an art or a discipline in that form, and also to carry some confidence and capability around with him. I do, and how you use it, of course, is so important. But there are some not very nice people out there. So if you can defend yourself against the possible lunatic that you might run into, surely it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at Matty Evans is a great example. Look at the skills that guy's got, and he's such a lovely guy. But if he wasn't, you could bump into him in the street, and like you're like, whoa.
Mate, Matty's still got that look in his eye where like you just don't mess with him. You just know not to fucking mess with him, but he's so confident in his own ability, he's got nothing to prove anymore.
Yeah, that's he's a nice guy. So if you're in a pub and you accidentally bump into him, it's no big deal. But if he wasn't a nice guy, then that's when you're in a whole world of trouble, aren't you? And you're right, there are people like that around, and it's good to have a little bit of skill to be able to protect yourself. Yeah,
but it's interesting now because there's a lot of people out there obviously not condoning violence and martial arts, and there's a lot of this, men shouldn't need to be the protectors of women and people. Yeah. But there's a lot of horrible things going on in the world where men are hurting like women and other people. And I personally think it's good to have strong men to step forward and be protectors of people.
100%.
Like, good man. Yeah, and I don't want that to go missing. I think traditional roles of like men being able to handle themselves is not always a bad thing.
No, I agree, mate. And I think, like you say, there's a lot of sort of grey areas and blurred lines now around things like this, which I don't think there should be. It's not. I mean, it's not a bad thing if you, as a man, have skills and strength and you can protect other people. And certainly, I see that now as a father. I think that's really important for me. Now I've got a daughter, I've got 2 stepsons. That if I'm out with them and there's something unpleasant going on, I want to be able to protect them. I want to be able to look after them, and I think that's really important. And that's true whether I'm out with my daughter, my stepsons, or my wife. It doesn't, or even my friends. It doesn't matter. It's like, I think it's an important thing to be able to do.
I agree as well. I was having a chat with my friend, and she's, I wouldn't say feminist, but she's kind of like, slightly on that side.
She's friends with you, Alex, if she's a feminist. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But she's saying, look, we shouldn't need being protected from these men, and I'm like, no, you shouldn't.
No,
but
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's not the reality of the world, unfortunately. Like, there's a lot of things that we wish didn't happen, but.
No, look, we shouldn't need an army, right? Listen, we shouldn't need a police force, right? Because the country should be full of nice guys that don't break the law, don't drive too fast, and don't steal from each other. But we do need a police force, and like, you've got to live in the real world. And yeah, you're right. It shouldn't be like that. A woman shouldn't be afraid to go out after dark. But in some parts of the country, she probably is, and in some areas, she is, and that's bad, and that's not right. But it's also good if guys can protect her. So it's not a sexist thing. It's not saying women are weak and they can't protect themselves, but it's saying that it's good if there are strong men around who are good guys and that can kind of help out in situations where they need to.
Mate, I couldn't agree more. Dude, we both coach a lot of men. We both coach a lot of people. I know you teach men and women. I predominantly are working with men at the minute. Why do you think, what's the main reason why a lot of men and a lot of people are like struggling right now? And I'm not just talking about the situation of lockdown, because this isn't new. Like, men have been struggling for years now, and people have been struggling for years. And whether we're more aware of it now than what we used to, I'm not sure. But I think we're in a worse off position in terms of like mental health and so on than what I ever remember anyway. Why, having the knowledge that you have and the inside info that you have working with these guys, what do you think some of the main reasons are? I
mean, firstly, I think you're right. I don't think that this last year has necessarily been massively worse from a mental health point of view, but I think it's kind of shone a spotlight on it because it's emphasised it more, which is a good thing because it's brought that kind of out of the shadows and stuff. And it's made people, I think, unafraid to talk about mental health issues. I mean, I'm not the sanest guy in the world. You know that. You've known me for a few years, yeah. I've had issues myself. And I'm quite happily, I've warned my missus about that when we met. I said, like, not in a threatening way. I just said, look, there's going to be times where I'm not going to be myself. I might get a bit sad. I might just be a bit quiet and stuff like that. And it happens. But so why it happens, I think definitely with the guys that I train, the biggest thing they talk about to me is having like consistency and a sense of purpose and a sense of achievement, which I think is quite often lacking in a lot of people's lives. A lot of people, especially 9-to-5ers, they'll go to work in the morning, they'll get drip fed work all day, they'll go home in the evening, and that's their lives. And there's nothing outside of that, and there's no sort of goal, there's no purpose. And I talk to a lot of people, and they'll say to me, like, they could look ahead in their lives 10 years time, they'll be doing exactly the same thing they did yesterday. And that's quite a depressing, almost pointless existence. So I think people need a goal, and whether that goal matters to anyone else doesn't matter. It might be your goal to row a sub 7-minute 2K, right? That's a fucking massive achievement. It doesn't matter if no one else understands it, but just for your own feeling of satisfaction, I think that's a massive thing to do, and that's why exercise is such a good tool for mental health.
Yeah. The small things matter, don't they? The small things that, I mean, I did a video on this today, got a bit passionate about it, a bit emotional about it, because I know the benefits of doing the small things really well. And I'm talking about, there's a guy I'm working with now, for example, Craig, who's a coach. His office in his background is a complete mess, like his office, and he suffers with bad anxiety. And like the office is reflecting his head. Like I'm all about doing the things like keeping your workspace tidy, and doing the basic things like that are so neglected. But I think it's a combination, a bit like investment. It's like compound effects. If you're going to work and, like you say, you don't like your job and your desk is messy, and then you're not exercising, and then you're eating crap, and then you've not got a great relationship, and then you're not getting outside. Like there's 8 or 9 things that are not fucking good for you.
Going wrong,
or just not like adding any joy or benefit to your life. So like if you do that every day, like you're saying, compound it over 10 years, I think most people get to a point where they're like, shit, like, is this it? Like, is this what life is?
You're right. I think people fill their lives with things they have to do, not things they want to do, not things that make them feel good, but things that they feel duty bound to do that they're not necessarily duty bound to do. So, I mean, and I find this a lot I see a very clear split, and I don't know if you see this, between the mental attitudes and the mental states of people who are employed and people who work for themselves, and because they generally have a totally different view on not just on their job, but on life altogether. And I know one of the things people say to me when they find out I run my own business, and it's not so much now because it's an established business, but when I first started and I was just self-employed and I was just a sole trader, and people are like, aren't you worried not knowing how much money you get coming in every month? And I'm like, no, I'm not, because like, if it's not enough, I'll do something different. I'll work a bit harder. I'll do what you did. I'll take some cleaning shifts. I'll do something different. And straight away, just working for yourself gives you that feeling that you are in control of you. Yeah. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of people in 9-to-5 jobs don't have, because they're not in control of themselves.
No, I think the days of like secure jobs are gone anyway. And 2, I think certainty is what creates boredom for a lot of people. Like not having that fear of like, oh shit, like I work for myself. I can't just be lazy all week. Like I think that keeps me like alive and working hard. And I think if I had too much security, I'd be totally bored and fulfilled and inspired.
You can't just have a duvet day tomorrow, can you? Because you don't feel like it, then your bills don't get paid, right? So,
well, yeah. I mean, what happened in lockdown, dude? Like me and you, we both own gyms and training facilities. Shut. Like, what do we do? Like, we had to make something happen. You went online, I went online. We've got 2 new businesses now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it forces you. Whereas if you're on furlough, like you go, oh, I'm getting paid. I don't have to do it. And I know a lot of guys that really hit a low point because they didn't even have their jobs to go to and they had nothing else to do. And that just flags up that if you don't have a purpose, if you don't have something to aim for, then why are you going to get out of bed?
Yeah, and your job shouldn't be your purpose unless you're in that fortunate position like you and I are, that we actually love what we do. And I don't ever feel like I've got a job. Yeah. I'm sure you're the same. But it's very unlikely if you're employed by someone else that you're lucky enough to be in that situation. And I think that's why your job in itself shouldn't be your main focus of your life. It should be something other than that, something better. And it's like, you see these guys, and I've seen it a lot, like you say, during lockdown, where I've seen guys, they'll do like sort of 3-4 hours unpaid overtime a day. As soon as lockdown comes, their employers have got rid of them, the same as the guys that weren't doing the 3-4 hours overtime. Your employer does not care about you. Like you're just a name on a computer, and you're just a figure to him. So don't care about them because they don't care about you. That's
that really pains me to see somebody. Like I know a lot of guys that do that. They give their heart and soul to a company, like you say, work the extra 2 or 3 hours to get the stuff done, and it's actually quite painful to see because they're driving themselves into the ground. They're becoming overweight, tired, exhausted, and you almost want to step in. I mean, you can't go around flinging out too much advice if people don't ask for it. But where do you come in as a PT and a coach? Do you even go there, or do you just think, right, look, my job is to train these people, and that's all I want to do. That's my job. That's what I get paid for.
I think so. Firstly, when you're a trainer, and you're the same as me, we work with people like long term. We don't do like one-off sessions, and we don't see people once a month, and We see people like 3, 4, 5 times a week in, week out. And you get people who just talk to you. You'll get to know what's going on with their lives. And if there's things like you say where, yeah, you can't just give advice where it's unwanted. But if someone's telling you the same problem 3 or 4 times, you think, well, hang on, he wants to know maybe my take on that, or he needs a little bit of guidance on that. And I think there are times when, purely from a building a relationship with people, you know, it's kind of our duty to say, or maybe just to give a different viewpoint and say, look, how about if you did this? Have you thought about doing that? Have you thought about looking at it from this angle? And the other thing is, and I see this more so now with how we train people online, because the app that we've got, it's a really cool little thing and a really simple little thing. There's a little readiness questionnaire at the start of every training session. And this is something that I want to try and introduce into my real life sessions as well. And it's just like, you just score things out of 5, like how happy you are, how good your night's sleep was, how achy you are, how much energy you've got. And if you're seeing people regularly score like 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 on this, you know, there's a problem. Without getting too deeply into it, I say to people, look, those scores need to be 3.5, 4 out of 5. Otherwise, you're not going to have a productive training session. So purely on a training focused point of view, I think sometimes you have to say stuff like that. But yeah, I think sometimes just when you see people that many times, I think you're kind of almost like duty bound, that you're in a relationship with them and you're almost duty bound to try and help them out, because sometimes the reason they come to you isn't the reason they think they've come to you. Like everyone thinks they want a 6-pack or they want to look like Tom Hardy, right? I don't know. They all think they want to look like someone else, or they want to, and that's probably, no one ever comes to me and says, oh, I want to look like myself, only better. It's always like, I want to look like this, I want to look like that. A guy come to me once and he brought me some pictures of Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's in wicked shape, right? But Mark Wahlberg's like, what, 5'6", 5'7"? This guy was like 6'4". Like, and it's like, dude, you're never going to look like him, you know? It's just like, forget it, straight off, just forget it. If you want to bring me a picture of a celebrity, fine. But you're that tall, mate. Go for Hugh Jackman, not Mark Wahlberg. That's fucking ridiculous. But, you know,
mate,
it's like...
I find expectations are the biggest challenge as a personal trainer, to handle people's expectations.
Yeah,
versus
like managing,
yeah, for what they like. Even if they do have big ambitions, like, you kind of like have to, you know that, like, to get there, you'd have to train like a beast. Nutritionally, you'd have to be on point every day for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And in their minds, you know, lift a few weights, you know, 12 weeks later, they're kind of jacked up and buff. And it's hard because you don't want to destroy someone's ambitions and dreams in the first time you meet them. But yeah, dealing with expectations, because people assume that if they do, you know, this and they eat this, they're going to get this.
Yeah.
And that very rarely happens. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen either. We don't know how they're going to respond to training.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and that's social media again, though, isn't it? There's just so much stuff, like so much bullshit before and after stuff, and like, you know, I mean, I'll do this and you do it as well. You'll post a picture of a guy who's not in great shape, but like then his before picture, he's in even less great shape, you know. And it's like, just that progress is the thing, the forward movement, the momentum. That's the thing that's important. Not, yeah. I say to everyone, I remember I had some guy come in and he showed me these pictures. He go, oh, I found this on Instagram, and it's like some before and after, and it was ridiculous. It was like, you know, it's some real massively out of shape guy, and then supposedly in 12 weeks he's ripped and suntanned and he's got a new haircut, and you're like, how can I do this? I'm like, just Photoshop the same way this guy's done it. It's like, it's ridiculous. He hasn't done that in real life, you know. If the highly unlikely chance that is the same guy over a 12-week period, is geared off his tits. You know, he's not done that naturally through hard work in a 12-week period. That doesn't happen. So,
yeah.
You know, like you say, it's just, and that's social media putting, and again, this is a thing that's increasingly happening to men now that used to be just the problem of women. I think that the pressure from social media to look a certain way, to dress a certain way, to look good with your shirt off, and that all used to be on women, and like men used to put that on women, and now it's kind of being put on men as well by other men, and the whole thing's a little bit weird, to be quite honest. Like,
well, dude, men are just as insecure as women. I don't care what anyone says. They decide it better. But yeah, it's, you know, I've trained enough men to know that, yeah, that they've got their own insecurities. In fact, I went through a stage where I thought, I'm not going to put out any before and after pictures, like, because like you can't show what's happened in between. Like, I mean, I did a U-turn on that. One, because business suffered, like it did. Like, you don't show people the transformations. But two, I thought they're all real, they're all legit, but they haven't been pretty. Like, there's been ups and downs in those.
Yeah.
You know, some of them have took 2 years, and like, you know, you put that on the caption, and people are like, 2 years.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how I view any goal that I have now. I'm looking at like, well, you know, if I behave a certain way now, how is this going to affect my life in 12 months, 24 months, 36 months? And goal setting is such a skill. And the only way you get good at goal setting is to keep setting goals and learn. So I think this is the biggest mistake, I think, where guys will set that goal, they'll realize it doesn't work, like, and then they'll go, you know, have a break from it and come back and set the exact same goal and do the exact same thing, and think something else is going to change.
Yeah. And that's the Einstein's definition of insanity, isn't it? Just repeating the same thing over and over and expecting different results. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I posted about this the other day on Instagram. I said, like, you know, the key to goal setting is set a goal, make it as crazy as you want, but understand that that's your end point. And what you've got to then do is set some realistic milestones leading back from that goal.
Yeah.
And when you've set your crazy goal and you think, right, I'm going to go from A to B, you actually haven't, because your crazy goal is probably Z. And you've got a whole alphabet full of milestones that you need to hit before you get to that. And that's what people, A, don't realize, and then B, they're not prepared to do that because they've been sold a different story by the press, social media, whatever publications, Men's Health, whatever they're buying. They've been sold a different story. Like Men's Health, every month, like, oh, get a 6-pack in 4 weeks. But then the next month, it's got the same story, but you wouldn't need to buy the next month's, right? Because if you follow January's, you've got your 6-pack. You don't need February's fucking issue. So, but they're selling the same story again because they know people have followed that plan for like 2 weeks, not got a 6-pack, knocked it on the head, sacked it off. 2 weeks later, they're in the supermarket. Maybe not at the moment. 2 weeks later, they're looking online at some magazine, and if I follow that, I'll get a 6-pack. And like you say, totally ignoring the fact that they did that 4 weeks ago and it didn't work.
Yeah. I think I'll put a lot of guys off now by almost not crushing their expectations, but what I ask them to do is
nasty,
yeah. Because look, if you're not training at all and you haven't trained for 2 years, and you know, you say that, you know, you're going to train once a week, I'm like, brilliant. That's one more time every week that you haven't been training for the last 2 years. But for a guy, that's not enough. You know, it's got to be 5 times or it's nothing. It's got to be this diet or it's nothing. I'm very much of, look, dude, what's one thing you can do this week that you didn't do last week that's going to make you a tiny bit better? Because if you do that every week, you've got your 1 year transformation. The problem is you just keep fucking quitting. Yeah. That's the problem.
And that's what, funny enough, I put that in that same post I was talking about. Like, your ultimate goal might be to have a 6-pack and be a cover model, but your first goal might be to just drink 2 liters of water a day. And it might be something as simple as that. And people don't want that mundane stuff. They want to be in the gym doing the workouts that we used to do, and feeling like they're, I don't know, in a Hugh Jackman's training montage or something like that, because that's what they've been sold as, like the sexy way of training and making progress.
But it's not even about the 2 liters of water, is it? Because it's about what it stands for. It's about, like, you've drank 2 liters of water. You've drank 2 liters of water. Well done. Tap on the back. There's a victory. Something you haven't experienced for a long time.
Yeah.
This is what I said. I think this is what I was getting to earlier, when these small victories count so much because they build character. They build trust. Like, let's face it, most guys are full of shit. Most guys say one thing and do another.
Yeah.
That's not because they're bad people or because they've got bad intent. They just overestimate their willpower. They haven't got the skill or the capacity to go from nothing to 5 times a week and stick to this insane diet plan. They just haven't got it.
Yeah.
And then they think they're a failure.
Yeah, no, I see, and I've got a guy. I haven't got him anymore because I actually refused to deal with him anymore. Not in a nasty way, I haven't fallen out with him, but probably every 6 months he was coming to me and going, I want to train with you, Craig. I need to get my shit together. I want to train this 3, 4, 5 times a week. Tell me how many sessions you can fit me in. I'm really going to do it this time. I'm like, no, you're not. You don't do it. You do it 2 weeks and then you just sack it all off and you're having your Friday night takeaways. And then 6 months time, he comes back. And I kind of bought into this like the first 2 times. And then the third time I said, look, I'm not doing this with you anymore. Like, forget that. Forget jumping in at the deep end. Let's just make some steady changes. Go away. I'll give you a program for nothing. Just train on your own for a month at home. Come back in a month and tell me you've done it. Yeah, I ain't heard from him for 3 months, so.
Yeah, mate. People want to jump in the deep end who can't swim.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and that's damaging for a guy's mental health. Like, that's really damaging because they get used to that, and then what happens is they accept and they become resigned to the fact and then they give up all hope, and then they'll come out with phrases like, "I've tried everything."
Yeah, like exercise doesn't work for me. Yeah, like, oh, yeah, I tried that diet. I tried 1,200 calories a day and didn't work. No, of course it fucking didn't, because you're not like a 3-year-old. Of course, 1,200 calories a day did not work for you. So yeah you're right, but it just completely destroys their will to actually try anything else again or to think they can change.
Absolutely, and it's really sad to see, man. Because, like I say, people have good intentions and they want to do well, but it's almost to the point where I've given up. Like, everything I've tried has failed. But the acceptance of going smaller is a victory. It just doesn't seem to do it. It doesn't seem to excite most people. It's like, it can't be this easy. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like, because like 2 liters of water, you're still going to look exactly the same after a week. So people are so interested in now, they're not thinking about 6 months or a year. Because if they did, that 2 liters of water, boom, I need that. That's great. Yeah. But it's changing people's mindset like that, and that can be a challenge in itself.
Yeah, and it's totally contrary to what the rest of society feeds them as well. That's the problem. We talk to people that are bombarded with like the whole fast fix society all the time, and whether that's like Herbalife or some scam supplement, or well, hang on, it's the same thing, or some like nonsense before and after picture. It's the same thing. That people are bombarded by this, and they're given false expectations. And they'll see nonsense about, like I say, Fat John up the road who's suddenly got a 6-pack, but he hasn't. And they don't see, like you said on your photos, they don't want to see that 2 years. They want to see that your guys have done that in 6 weeks, because that's all they want to do. Yeah, well, that's what they think they need to do. And that's the trouble.
Yeah, one of my questions now, when somebody goes, look, I want to get 3 stone gone in 12 weeks. My question always is like, well, when 12 weeks is over, what are you going to do, man? Because like that, it doesn't end there, because guess what? After 12 weeks, you've got another 12 weeks in front of you, and you could undo all of that work in the next 12 weeks. No problem. In fact, it's easier to put on weight than it is to lose weight.
Oh, God, yeah.
So,
and there's I think as well, exercise is seen as like the holy grail of it. Yeah. Like, so without the other things, like the getting enough sleep, the recovery, the drinking water, all the other stuff that goes around it. And like, people come to me and say, oh, I want to work out to lose 3 stone. I'm like, well, did you put that 3 stone on by not working out? Yeah. Like, no, you've never worked out in your life. So why is like doing something totally different gonna undo the things that you've put that 3 stone on by eating McDonald's 5 times a week? Other forms of fast food are available, and like stealing your kid's Haribos when he's not looking. You haven't put that on by not working out 3 times a week. That's nonsense. So that's not going to fix your problem. There are other problems, and you're trying to stick the plaster of exercise over it, basically.
Yeah, and I did a training for my guys last week inside the group, and I brought up some of my best transformation pictures, and I went through all the different factors that have allowed that person to have the transformation. And it wasn't just diet and exercise. It was all sorts of things, from training age to ability. Because let's face it, kettlebells and weight training is a skill. Like, if you have to be good at it to get a really good transformation. You can't just do the program. Because there's doing the program and there's doing the program. Like, there's a kettlebell swing and there's a kettlebell swing. So I come up with about 20 different things that affect a transformation for somebody. And it's not just, like you say, train 3 times a week and eat 50. It doesn't work like that. There's so many things to consider. Family's a huge one. You'll know that, if you've got kids versus a 25-year-old that's got, every morning to get up and train and get after it. There's a difference in your transformation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that myself. I'll be, let's say I'll go in the morning, I'll see some clients, and I'll finish at like 10 o'clock, and I think, right, I can train now. And then I think, almost like as soon as I started my workout, I'm thinking, right, but I've left Shell at home with the kids. That's not really fair on her. Should I be doing this? And it's really hard. And that's for me. And I run a gym, and I've trained like probably almost every day of my life, and that still niggles away in my mind. I know Shell says she has the same thing when she's there when I'm at home with the kids. So for a normal guy that's never trained in his life to suddenly start saying, all right, this is my time now, I'm going to go and do this. That's quite a massive step, to be honest.
Yeah. Absolutely, all these things, age, all that thing has to come into account when you're looking at somebody's transformation.
You said you weren't going to mention my age, mate. I can't
That's
believe
okay.
it.
It's always going to happen.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. I'm at that age now where anyone older than me, I'll point it out, so it makes me feel a little bit younger. But, dude, I'm loving your hair. Dude, I'm loving the hair, by the way. I'm
thank you. It's all my own work. It's at the back. Shell does the back. I do the sides because I can't really see what's going on back there.
Yeah, it's good, mate. I love it.
Completely lack the coordination to do it in a mirror from behind. It's like, I don't know how people do their own hair.
That's good, mate. That's good. Anyway, dude, talking about kind of mental health challenges, what have been your biggest kind of tests and struggles through your time on this planet so far?
What, from a mental health point of view?
Yeah. So like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you, but I don't actually know that much about you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I think, again, because of how we met, we kind of, all the stuff we talked to each other about was training related and business related, and that's as it happens, we then became friends after that. But that's initially it was a very sort of professional work based thing, wasn't it?
Well, so we'd train, we'd fight, and we'd talk about training. That's what.
Go and eat cheesy twists. Well, that day Tesco's ran out of cheesy twists. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, well, you reminded me. Yeah, every few hours for about 6 months.
We used to go down to Tesco's in our personal trainer t-shirts and just basically buy all the cheese. Cheesy twists are a pastry product. It's like pastry in a little plait, like kind of like that, and coated in cheese. It
was Big Phil. Remember Big Phil at the gym? Who, I was trying to put on some size. He was like, Alex, all you need to do is eat anything that you can fucking see. Like fry-ups, flapjacks, anything. Like, if you got to mention like the gear that, that was handed around was helping a lot of these guys get big. But yeah, I just got fat in the end.
What a legend. Does Phil watch does he watch? I haven't spoken to Phil for ages.
Probably not. I love Phil, but what a character.
What a legend, yeah. Should we do a whole other episode on Phil? We'll give him a different name. But we'll do a whole different episode on him.
Yeah, so we'd have a fight. We'd go to Tesco, buy some food, and then have a drink after and chat. It was great time. So yeah, but like I say, we never really spoke about life really. I think, like I say, just the place we were at. So yeah, what have been your biggest setbacks and challenges and struggles?
I mean, this is why one of the reasons again why I feel like I'm cool talking to people about depression and about mental health and stuff is because I've been down that road myself. I mean, again, you probably don't. And this is probably when we weren't in touch so much because it was when you were setting up CV34. When you first, I remember when you first left, how bored you were. You used to text me like randomly during the day, just going, "All right, mate, what's up?" And I'm like, "I'm all right, thanks. What's up?" And you were just like sitting there on your own because you were used to being in a gym full of people. And then
it's one of the most depressing times of my life when I first opened the studio and then I realised I had no clients and the phone wasn't ringing. Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah. Mate, I'll talk about that in a minute, but like not about you, about me. But it's all about me. But there was a time when, and I think again, it's when you weren't there, you'd gone. And like you were like basically my only mate there because some of the people there, they were all right. Some of them were complete no names, but some of them were complete dickheads, weren't they? Basically, and not people.
There was a few balance there, yeah.
Not people you wanted to be around, and people that probably shouldn't have been around the members of the public, really. We'll go any further without mentioning his name, but But yeah, I mean, and so I kind of felt a little bit isolated there, and I was just going and doing my own thing. I've been in a very long relationship, which just ended, and on my terms, really. But it still left me a little bit kind of when you're used to being in a relationship, a little bit out on your own. Yeah, and things just went like quite downhill for me, really. I think I left fitness first, and I went to. I can't remember where I went to after that. Maybe a Sparta, but it was on the borderline between doing those two things. And I just got it to a point where I had a couple of bad injuries, and I was taking a lot of painkillers. One of which was red wine, which is an excellent painkiller. Can you put a little thing at the bottom that says this is not medical advice, something like that? But yeah, I just kind of got into a habit of just basically being on my own, feeling fucking sorry for myself, and drinking a lot. And long story short, I ended up being admitted to the Caledon Centre, which anyone who's not from Coventry doesn't know, but it's basically a mental health hospital. So I'm not quite happily. It's not something I share with anyone. I'll tell you because obviously you've asked me about it, and obviously people are watching. It's not something I'll bang on about. But yeah, I was in there for about 2 weeks, and just to be honest, it was quite a happy time. It was, I'm surrounded by people who were like more mental than me, which is good because it kind of puts a perspective on it. I had 2 weeks of not stressing about bills, not worrying about relationships, not worrying about being on my own, not drinking anything, not taking painkillers. I was in a lot of pain, by the way. But yeah, and when I came out, it was kind of like, it was almost like opening a blank page. It was like, oh, I can just start again now. I can do what I want. And that was when I started looking at getting my own unit. And you were part of the inspiration for that, for like, because I thought, well, if Alex can do it, I'll fucking do it. But no, seriously, mate, you were a big inspiration for me in doing that, because it was not something that I'd even thought about doing until you did it. And yeah, if you told me at the time you were sitting around with no clients waiting for the phone to ring, I might have thought twice about it. But no, but I was in the same boat. I mean, when I first opened, I had like one client, and I think probably about 2 months savings in the bank, and that was it. But again, at that point, I never thought it would fail, because failure is, to me, the failure would be me giving up, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. And I think that all the things that had happened to me before, I thought when I've been that low, I thought I'm not. When you've been quite down, you can use that as a really powerful tool. Because when you've been in a really dark place, anything that happens after that actually ain't that bad. And it might feel like at the time I still like lose my rag over silly little things. And like I was talking about that bloody reel thing on Instagram today. God, that's really irritating me, isn't it? That's about the third time I mentioned it. But yeah, that I'll lose my rag about that, but it's not really important, is it? Doesn't matter. And like when you've been into like a really dark situation where you really don't know who you are and what you're doing, nothing else after that is that bad. So when I've set up a business, I've only got one client, I'm like, it doesn't matter, I'll get some more, or I'll get a cleaning job like you said, or I'll get a paper round, or do they even do paper rounds anymore? No, I don't know, old man shit, right? So but yeah, I do something like that. So I think going into that place really helped me, because it that's like, I think that's as low as it's ever going to be for me. It makes you appreciate good times more. I mean, I've got a beautiful wife, lovely family, and like I appreciate that all the more for the fact that there's been times I had nothing, and it's like it makes a massive difference. But not everyone has that attitude, because if you come out of that situation and then you're plunged straight back into the same situation that put you there, then you're kind of in that vicious circle with it. And that's this on a greater or lesser extent, that's the situation a lot of people find themselves in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Stuck in that whole loop of like getting depressed, working themselves out of it, but the fact they're still in that same situation, so they're getting depressed again, and they work themselves out of it, and then nothing's changed, and it's just the whole chicken and egg thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't end up in the calendar unless things are pretty bad, right? So things must have been quite a tipping point.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a point where I'd probably had thoughts about like not wanting to be here anymore, because for what we talked about earlier, actually, because I didn't think there was a whole lot of point to anything I was doing. It didn't. I think what I do now, in terms of how I train people and how I build relationships with people, is a lot more fulfilling, and it feels like there's a lot more point to it than that sort of treadmill, excuse the pun, that you're on at a big gym where you just see people once a week and then they go away and they drink beer and eat shit and they come back in exactly the same state the week after. You feel like there's not a whole world of point to that. And again, it's what I talked about earlier. When there's not a whole world of point to your job and all you think about is your job, then it kind of becomes not a whole lot of point to you either.
Is it your job that's changed, or is it the fact that obviously now, like, you've got family and so, like, does that have is that the purpose now, and the job is the thing that allows you to have that purpose, or is it just that everything's better?
I think it's just that everything's better. But I mean, I think the fact that I've got a family and I've got a daughter is a massive thing. For me, I'm not saying if you're in a bad place you should go out and have children, because you need to get your shit together before you do that. But I think it's not like a single thing that's changed. It's like you say, like one thing allows you to appreciate or to do the other, that allows you to do something else and allows you to enjoy something else. So it's quite a knock-on effect of different things. But I think you've got to start that somewhere, and you've got to realize that you've got that problem, and you've got to then get out of it. So that's the thing as well that I talk about a lot on my social media, is that you've got to do that yourself. No one's going to come and hold your hand, pat you on the head, and go, yeah, Johnny, let me. I don't know who Johnny is. He's the fat guy up the road, and now he's the guy that needs some help. But yeah, Johnny, let me give you a hand up. No one's going to do that shit for you. No one's going to do it. You've got to do it yourself.
So why didn't you get on the buzzer to someone at that point, like, and say, or even like someone like me, and just say, Alex, I'm struggling here. Like, why don't men do that? Like, because we all know that it might help. Or do we actually know that actually it's not going to help?
I think when you're in that position, for me, yeah, I mean, I did talk to a couple of people, but I just literally like a minute into the conversation, I just think, oh, this guy doesn't understand how I feel. You know, it's like you just think like no one. I think men aren't very good at taking advice from other men. Yeah, I think we're probably good at taking advice from our parents, maybe, and that's it. And I think it's quite hard for a lot of men to take advice from other men. And I think so that's one thing. But I think also the other thing is it's also we're as men, we're taught not to ask for help, aren't we? We're like, you're the guy that helps people, not the guy that asks for help. That's the typical society male role. Yeah. So, and it's kind of like flipping back what we said earlier, that yeah, society needs strong, good men as role models. Children need strong, good men as role models. But part of that is also being strong enough to ask for help, which isn't necessarily how people think of strength.
No, and I find a lot of rescuers, so people that are in jobs like personal training and any kind of job like that where you're helping other people, generally you are not so good at asking for it yourself.
Yeah, because, I mean, we spend all day, don't we, sort of giving advice and telling other people what to do, and it's people like come to us because they think we've got answers, which then makes it harder to go to someone else and go, oh, do you know what, I haven't got the answer to this, could you help me out a little bit?
I'm not suggesting here that men shouldn't talk, because I really believe that they should, but I sometimes think in open discussions like this, it's great. Like, I really do believe in big group discussions where people can, like what we're doing now, you know, vocally just want to chat about it over a beer. It's not like a, you know, therapist fucking sit down behind a table thing. But I think there's an argument to say that sometimes talking about it doesn't help one little bit.
I think,
especially if you go to a good friend of yours who loves you and doesn't know what the fuck to say.
Yeah, and it's just going to feed into what you're actually thinking yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like...
that's what happened to me. That's what I said to you. That's exactly what happened to me. I talk to people and I just think, oh, he doesn't fucking understand. So, like, yeah, they either agree with you.
Understand, and that's cool. They actually don't. Like, why would they?
Like you say, your friend is either going to agree with you, which kind of enforces your worldview, or he's going to disagree with you, in which case you think, oh, he doesn't understand what I'm saying. So, like, yeah, it's almost like a no-win situation. But yeah, I think it's easy to talk yourself into a worse place than you actually should be in.
Well, talking is thinking, right? So
yeah,
when you're down and depressed, like you say, you can talk yourself into a not so good spot, when in fact you'd probably be better off having the friend that's so fucking honest, so direct, that they give you the boot up the arse that most men need, especially when it's heartache over a relationship breakup. Yeah. That's the time where I would really appreciate my mate saying, Alex,
get a grip.
Yeah. You know, like, honestly, that's the thing that will see most guys fall into the ground is,
no, you're right, actually. Yeah.
And no guy wants to admit this. No guy wants to talk about this. But like we say, dude, we know we can bounce back from business. We know we can bounce back from financial stress. But when your heart gets fucked up, that's when that's the root of all my suffering.
I think you're right. It's a different thing. I mean, you're the same. If you took all my business away from me tomorrow, I was going to say the day after, but tomorrow I'd start working on a new one. It wouldn't matter. You get it back, right? But like,
you lose your family and it's over, right?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So it's a different feeling.
It's a very different feeling. It's a very different feeling, and I've seen many of tough guys be heartbroken and not know how to handle it. And when you're in that place, I don't think it matters what anybody says to you.
No, you don't listen to anything, and it's just. Because all you're listening to is your internal, not even here. You're listening to this, aren't you? And it's a different feeling. Yeah.
Tough times, man. It's tough times when that happens. When you get your heart broke, it's tough times.
But it happens, isn't it? It's going to happen to everyone. This is the most stressful thing about having a daughter. I'm already, because we know how guys think. I'm like, I already know at some point she's going to come home with her heart broken, and then me as a father, I've got to put my arm in. I've got to listen to her suffering, and I've got to not go and kill the guy that's done it. So it's all like really hard stuff to do.
Yeah, well, I always said, any girlfriend that I was with, I always said, like, I don't think I could handle having a daughter. I don't think I could handle it. Like, I could just about, well, I can't even handle having a missus, let alone a daughter. Like, it would. I think, like you say, the worry and stress that I don't know how you deal with it or cope with it. Like, even forget the opposite sex. I'm just like, bad things can happen, right? Like, that's life. And to think that they could happen to your daughter, I don't know how you get anything done without stressing.
Mate, I don't, honestly. I mean, people go to me like, what's the biggest change since you had a child? Has it made you think about the future more? Has it made you a better person? Like that, all that. Anyone says that to you, it's bullshit. And I'll tell you the truth, right? So, firstly, having a child's made me want to be a better person. Who doesn't want to be a better person? Like, if you don't want to be a better person anyway, there's something wrong with you. That's nonsense. The one difference that having a child has made is that I see absolutely everyone I don't know as a potential fucking threat. That's the only difference it's made, yeah? And like, I don't like anyone looking at her. I don't want to talking to her. That's why I'm going to be an awful parent when she starts dating. I'm going to be horrendous.
How old is she?
3.
Oh, mate. You got a while to go yet, dude.
Mate, no, honestly, mate, she'll talk about some boy at playgroup. I'm like, what do his parents do then? What's he all about?
Mate, that's what I'm worried about. I can see myself like beating up some little kid that's like 7, like because he's like, made her cry or something. I can see myself being that parent that's just.
Mate, I'm terrible as well, because if she comes in, she'll play with her brothers and the kids next door and stuff, because they're in that bubble. But she'll come in like crying. And I'll go, who's done this? What's happened? And Shell's like, aren't you going to find out what's happened rather than who's done it? I'm like, no, because she's upset. So someone's to blame. Like, 9 times out of 10, it's that she's poked someone in the eye, so they poked her back in the eye. And like, but I don't care about what she's done. I just care that someone's poked her in the eye. It's like, it's very hard to be. It's impossible actually to be dispassionate about it and to be impartial.
Yeah, no, I always admire like anyone who's a dad. I always admire a parent. Sorry, like because it's got to be the hardest, probably the most rewarding job, but it's got to be the hardest job out there being a parent.
Different. It's a completely different. It's not. You can't even compare it to anything to someone that hasn't done it. And I didn't understand myself what it was going to be like. And it's just like I thought it'd just be like having another like. Sounds really I thought it'd be like having another dog. It's totally not. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, mate. I don't know much about parenting, but I would assume it's not the same as having a dog.
It's not the same.
No. But I'm glad you've learned that. Otherwise, you might have got yourself in some bother.
Yeah, I mean, I did the first time I took her for a walk. I mean, a lot of people were looking strange at that lead, and I learned my lesson. But no, it's a massive, it's a game changer, mate, 100%. But that's why I said it. But that's why I've struggled with other things around that, like training and stuff, because I've almost wanted to be here all the time.
Yeah, but priorities change, don't they? Like priorities change in life, and yours, like they've had to, whether you want them to or not. But now you have got like that real purpose, haven't you? Like this is where I think when you have kids, like you said, that they do become, from what I've seen, they become your purpose. Yeah,
and your purpose becomes different as well. Like, I mean, like probably all her friends are going to have younger dads than me. I've got to accept that I'm going to be the oldest dad in the playground, but I also want to be the fittest dad in the playground. I want to be the strongest dad in the playground. So I don't want her to be the kid that's got her dad looks like a granddad. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's really important to me now. And that's one of the things that motivates me to train now. Yeah. Yeah,
no, I mean, absolutely. Do you ever worry? Because this is the kind of shit I worry about, and I'm not even close to having kids. Did you ever worry you're going to fuck your kids up?
Nah, because I'm brilliant.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because we all know, when things happen as a kid, which isn't a big deal, but it changes who you are. I do
all the time, especially every now and then she'll say something, and I think she's saying that because I've said it.
Yeah.
She'll if she says to her brother started saying something to her the other day, and she just went, "Don't start," and I was like, she's got that off me. I've said that to her at some point. And the
impossible job, really, isn't it? It's the impossible job because you can be a great parent and things don't turn out how you plan, or there's no certainty to how your kids are going to grow up.
That's the scary thing about it, that you see nice people with shit kids.
Yeah.
And you do though, and you see really nice kids, and then you meet their parents, and you're like, how have you done that?
Yeah. Well, it's mad because do you remember Weakest Piss John?
Yeah.
Remember Weakest Piss John?
That wasn't bullying, by the way. That was just an affectionate nickname that we had for this guy, who happened to be weak as piss and was called John.
Mate, he's legit now. He's got like he's got a gym in his garage. Everything's kid that out. Anyway, the point is, like, he's got 2 great kids, right? But they're so different. So different. Yeah. Same parents, like, you know, same.
They're just going to be little carbon copies of you. And
no, one's like really outgoing, and then one's really, really quiet, and she's shy. And it just shows you that like your kids like have different personalities regardless of how you bring them up.
It's weird. I mean, like, Athena's just started like going to preschool, and we're like, she's going off and doing stuff on her own. And that's like really weird, because she's like her own little person now.
Yeah.
Like, initially, you just think they're little extensions of you.
Yeah.
Now she's doing her own stuff on her own, and she's making friends with people who I need to vet. But like, she's, you know, and it's like it's a bit scary. It's a bit, and it's weird.
Yeah, it's cool name, by the way.
That's something else that, to me, that should motivate anyone. If you've got a kid, that you should want to be able to go out on a bike ride with your kid, or go and play football with your kid, or go and throw a ball around, whatever it is you want to do. You shouldn't not be able to do that because you're not healthy, or you're not fit enough, or you can't kick a ball, or, you know, that's another motivator for me, and another thing that I think any parent, you know, needs to take into account when they think about what, not just things that they can do with their child, but also what sort of, like you said, what, in terms of fucking the kids up, what sort of an example they're setting to their children as well. And that, I mean, our kids, they go into the gym and they just see it like a playground, and I guarantee you that they'll all train and they'll all love it, because they don't see it as a chore or something that has to be done. They just love going to the gym and training.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we were talking about like reaching the low points in your life, for me, like that's why I have to train, man. Like it's one of the only things in my life that's a must. Like, training is not a should or a could. Like, to stay alive, I have to train. Like that's my thought.
So it's quite easy for me to not like myself if I don't train for a few days in a row. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, sure, man. Like, look, when you take your shirt off and you look in the mirror, like, for me, it's important I see somebody strong. Like that's my standard right there. It's my discipline. It shows me what I eat, shows me how I live, shows me how I train. And yeah, I know when I'm not good up here, my physique isn't anywhere near where I want it to be. I just know that.
But you still send me the pictures, though.
Dude, Joe, I'm not in the physique that I want to be in right now either. I'm about 3 or 4 kilos over where I want to be right now.
But I mean, that's the other thing I say to people. I think no one ever is, are they? Are you ever like 100% happy with how you look?
No, because I look back at pictures when I was like 28, shredded, looking fucking great. And at the time, I was like, nah, this ain't.
Yeah.
Now I look like that.
I'll take a picture now, and I'm like, oh, look, I look fat, I look shit, I don't look good in that. I look at it 3 weeks later, I think, oh, I look wicked in that picture. How long ago was that? Oh, 3 weeks. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy, and I just don't know why I'm so out of shape, bro. I can't work it out. Dude, do you want to do your masterpiece now?
Oh, is it time to finish?
It is. Well, it's time for this, yeah. Although this has been good timing. I need a piss, dude.
Is that what you're saying?
Have you got like a guitar ready and shit?
I haven't got a guitar.
You're just gonna sing? Is this what we call a cappella?
It's called a cappella, Alex. Yeah.
Okay.
You're just going to leave me on my own to sing, and you go into the toilet. So anyone that just tuned into this right now, you're not there. And it's just me singing on my own.
Well, I've got 5% battery, so I need to run and get my battery. I need a piss. So I've got a feeling like there's not much else to do but for you to sing right now.
I'm going to wait till you're back, because I'm only going to be doing one verse, and then it's like, you know, there's just going to be silence. It's going to be awkward.
Well, can you hold the cat? Is there any? Have you got like a joke, like a stand-up?
I can always do a bit of joke.
So you would stand up.
Ask me a question that's unimportant. It doesn't matter, right? You don't give a shit about the answer to, and then go to the loo, and I'll just talk for 5 minutes.
Okay. Right.
Alex is looking through his list of bullshit questions to ask Craig now.
No, I'm at the end. That's all. But I did have the 1 year in lockdown. What's your biggest win from your 1 year in lockdown? What's your biggest lesson from your 1 year in lockdown?
Lesson.
What's it, if you had to say now, like in 2 or 3 minutes, what you've learned in lockdown and how it's going to change your life and how you move forward with your life, what would it be?
When you say if I had to, I have got to, because you're going to go now and I've got to talk about this. I might just I might just chat shit about you actually while you're not here.
Wait, tell us some Alex stories. That's cool.
For anyone tuning in, Alex is no longer running the Discipline Project. He's handed it all over to me. Corona is the new Discipline Project. So my biggest win, or my biggest, shall we do some Alex stories? Just pop a little question up in the box there if you've got any questions about Alex that you don't want him to edit while he's away from the screen. But yeah, my biggest win. I mean, I talked earlier about how I want to definitely going to keep carving out that time for myself for training when we're back in, and I've changed the whole format of how I train people and how I give people access to me. I'm not just at a point now where anyone can just rock up and train with me. So there's quite a selection process goes on there, because I'm just being a little bit more selective about who I spend my time with. I've got to be honest, I've quite enjoyed some aspects of lockdown. I'm not a massively social person, so that's why I do what I do. It's like it's a one-to-one, or I do small group stuff. So are
you pitching?
Sorry?
Are you pitching?
No, I'm just explaining something about my personality, Alex. Are you still there? You're just like out of shot.
Yeah, I'm looking in the
guys, let's not think about what Alex is doing out of shot while he can look at me and my splendid moustache. So yeah, I've definitely changed who I allow to access to me, and I've made myself a little bit more exclusive, and I'm a little bit more picky about. I mean, you don't always get it right, but I go through quite an intense process now of talking to people before I train them, and because I don't want to end up with people. I remember you saying to me once, like years ago at Fitness First, which ones of your clients don't you like? And that really made me think that I shouldn't be training people that I don't like.
I know, but you do it, mate. At the start, you train anyone.
Yeah.
You dude. My diary was open, like from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. I didn't care. I'd train anyone at any time when I first started. Anybody. And
I think for a new PT,
you've got to.
Especially if you started out in a big gym, you've got to do that, because you've got to be seen to be training people. You've got to give other people confidence in the fact that you can train people, and you've got to do that. But as soon as possible, you need to be selective about who you train. You need to train people whose goals and whose mindset and just whose vibe basically meshes with you. Otherwise, you're constantly going to be in an unhappy situation.
Yes. Do you remember the PT board? Do you know the old school? I think they still have them. You know, when you go in the gym and there's a board.
Yeah. And I've got one of them at my place. It's just got me on it.
and you used to have like bio, and then you used to have specialities as a trainer. And everybody used to say the same thing, fat loss, muscle gain, strength and conditioning. The one thing I think, I'd recommend new PTs is to actually become just good at one thing. So like,
by dictionary, find out what specialised actually means.
Yeah. I'm quite open now. I'm like, look, I get, I'm fat loss. That's what I do. Like, I'm body comp. Like, if it's performance or S&C or kettlebells, I'm not your man. Like,
funny enough, I told this story in another podcast a couple of weeks ago. One of the first clients I ever got at Fitness First was a guy that came up to me. This was before you started. And he asked me if I'd teach him Olympic lifting. And I said, no, I don't teach Olympic lifting, mate. I don't do it. I then went into a 20-minute, you could call it explanation, you could call it a rant. It depends on your point of view about why I don't teach Olympic lifting and why I don't think it's a great thing for the average man in the street. And he went, fair play to you, mate. Thanks for being honest. And he wanders off, right? And about 2 weeks later, he comes back to me and he said, can I book some sessions with you? And I said, yeah, can if you want, but we've talked about this. I don't teach Olympic lifting, and you want to do Olympic lifting? He said, no. He says, I don't. He said, I wanted to do something, and I thought Olympic lifting was the route to it. I said, right. So why have you come back to me now? And he said, because he'd asked every other PT in the gym if they teach him Olympic lifting, and they all said yes.
Yeah.
And he'd watched them. No one at that gym could teach Olympic lifting, right? You know that, right? And he said he'd watched them all train, and he knew he'd figured that out himself then, that none of them could teach Olympic lifting. And he said, I've come to you because you're the only guy that was honest with me.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man.
Still in touch with that guy, and he still drops me messages now and then and going, I'm doing this and this. What do you reckon to this? And like,
yeah. Honestly goes a long way. I think clients appreciate it when you're honest with them. And like, there's so many kind of examples I've got of that similar thing. But when I think about my first clients, dude, I had like Edwina, who like,
I remember Edwina,
yeah, needed a double knee replacement and had to lose 10 stone to get it. That was one of my first clients. And Eileen, who was visually impaired.
I
Like,
remember,
yeah, like, you know, and then there was Big Ed, who wanted to gain, like, such challenging clients. But and Kate Tallis, who lost 12 stone or whatever it was, and like, you know, such a variety, and it was one of my best experiences. But I think a lot of PTs now miss out on that because they go straight from PT school to I want my own studio, and they miss out the whole learning in between.
Yeah, and I think, it's almost like that's the end goal of becoming a PT, is having their own studio, and they don't understand the whole, not just people skills and knowledge of training, but the business side of thing that goes with that as well. It's like you can't just rent a building, open your doors, and you're away. There's a whole. I'm quite open. The thing I struggle with massively is marketing. I'm shit at marketing. If you put, I mean, I've just had some guys redo my website for me. I've just employed someone to do it because I never do it myself. And it was funny. They were chatting to me, and they were saying, "Oh, like, what's your conversion rate when you get people in front of me?" And I said, "Look, people that I want to train, when I talk to them, they will train with me. That's it. But like, that isn't my problem. My problem is that I don't understand all the showing off on social media side of things. And maybe that's because I'm quite old school, and I'm like you. I'm a little bit too honest for it. I don't understand all that, and I don't get it, and I can't do it, and that's my problem. But if maybe it's not a problem, I don't know."
Let's think about this. Like, me and you are both PTs that own our own business, an online business, so we're responsible for everything. Now, think about this. There's the training of clients, so there's, you know, the physical training and program writing. There's keeping in shape ourselves. There's sales calls. There's marketing. There's email marketing. There's social media marketing. There's the finance side and keeping on top of that. What else? I'm sure I've missed some. There's the cleaning of the gym. There's stuff like that. There's 15 or 20 things that you've got to get.
Yeah.
Whether it's you or outsourcing, but they either come at a cost of time or come at a cost of finance to pay someone else to do them. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, and like you say, people just see the glamorous. People say, "Oh, like Craig and Alex are sitting around having a beer on a Tuesday night chatting shit about training." But how many years has it taken us to get to this point?
Yeah, we've earned our stripes, I think, on this one.
Yeah, dude. And like I've got like don't know about you, I've got like a 6:15 alarm in the morning, so I'm training the young lady on Zoom. So like, I mean, it's not
30 minutes. Wow.
Chill out and do nothing, you know. It's like, but people don't see that, and again, that's because I think people are sold a dream of how things are, which isn't realistic.
Yeah, no, I'm glad of the tough route that I took, and I'm sure you are as well. Of that, that Fitness First was great, man. Like, it had its downfall, but I mean, we had a great laugh. We had a great time. 2,000 members, so you got to meet a lot of people, a lot of women.
Some characters on there, yeah.
Oh, brilliant, mate. You know, even from a sales team like Chris, who was on the call earlier, to those guys, and I mean, like, if you want business as a PT. Like, for me, like, you get yourself in a busy gym and you get yourself known for the right reasons. You know, I wasn't always known for the right reasons, unfortunately.
Look,
mate, I was 22, right? And there's like 1,000 women in the gym.
Say no more.
Like, well, everything they say about personal trainers, most of it is true, you know.
But that's the thing. We have such a bad like personal trainers. Like, I'm almost embarrassed to tell people. That's why I never say. I say I'm a coach. I say I'm a strength.
Yeah, I've come up with so many different titles. I can't.
I'm director of programming. Like, it's embarrassing almost. You go to any sort of function with other grown-ups. You tell them you're a personal trainer, and they're like, "What are you, 21 years old? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, get a grip." You know.
Yeah. I get the same thing when I announce that I'm a personal trainer. I say coach now.
No, coach is much better. But even like professionally as well. I mean, I deal with quite a few people with like medical issues and stuff, and it's quite hard. You'll find like the things that we say to them are quite often just like ignored by physios and doctors because they've got such a low opinion of personal trainers that it's not. They're genuinely. I had a guy who's got a shoulder problem, and he demonstrated TGU to his physio the other day because his physio didn't understand what I'd got him doing, and he was like, "Oh, that looks really good, yeah." And he's like, you know, but previously his physio was just writing off stuff that his trainer's shown him, you know. So I think again, I could probably talk about this for another hour, but we've been on about 2 hours already. Just the levels of, I don't know what the word is, just the fact that there is no level, there's no monitoring, there's no consistency, and there's no overall authority that controls how good we are at what we do. And I think it's quite a hard thing to do because it's such a diverse thing that if you get a guy who genuinely, if you put me, you, and a guy that teaches Olympic lifting in a room, we're all got such diverse skills. It'd be very hard for one other person to assess whether we're competent at them. So it's quite a hard thing to police. But I think there's got to be something more than whether you know anything about training or not. It's pretty obvious that some guy that has trained for about 3 weeks and then done a 2-week training course shouldn't be in a gym training other people. That's pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, I agree. However, like I say, I keep going back. I was one of those trainers that, mate, I'd be horrified if I looked back now and saw some of the sessions that I was delivering when I first.
Yeah.
The one rule for a PT when you're new is just be a nice person. Like, don't be a dick. Yeah. Like, care about your clients. And that was the thing that got me through, like with Edwina and Kate and Eileen. Like, they all got amazing results just because I installed some confidence and put some time and effort into them. But as a trainer, I was pretty fucking useless, if I'm honest.
You were a good-looking young lad at that point, so obviously you've had to change your act as things have evolved over the years, yeah?
Yeah, again, mate, talking about looking at your physique, you look back and you're like, actually, I weren't as ugly as I fucking thought I was back then. You know? But obviously, you know, I was all right. You know, I had it going on, and then you wake up and you're 36, and you're like,
yeah, that happened to me only last year, yeah.
It's frightening. So yeah, as a PT, first rule, like, don't be a dick. Like, just be nice. Just be a decent person, because you can learn the skill of personal training. You just got to be careful you don't hurt people, because one, we've got an incredible authority to make people's lives so much better, but we've got like the ability to hurt people as well, which happens a lot. I mean,
I certified with Bobby Maximus last year. Did the Maximus method certification, and he said one of the things he said that really stuck in my mind was that he trains a lot of really top level athletes, and the perception of other people is that he really pushes these guys to the limit in their training sessions. And he said, actually, his number one mission with these guys is not to injure them. Yeah. If he's training an NFL player who's earning, like, I don't know, literally like $3 million a month, and he injures him, like, that's fucking absolutely horrendous. So he said he's actually, it's almost the opposite, where he'll be like really, really overcautious with them until he's kind of assessed their capabilities and stuff. And you're right, just not hurting people is like a massive thing.
Yeah, that's why, like, again, I don't really want to get into the whole CrossFit thing, but that's why you can see, like, as good as it might be and as good as the world-class athletes make it look and how they look, because they look phenomenal, they're incredibly fit and strong, not even the average, 95% of people aren't going to be able to do anything close or have the ability anywhere close to that. So the injury rate is so goddamn high because they're asking people to do things they're nowhere near capable of. Even as a single fucking exercise, like deadlifting in itself is tough.
Yeah,
deadlifting after you sprint around the ground. Yeah, different game. So it's,
if you do a proper deadlift, look at what's that thought process that goes into each rep. And like you say, you're doing 20 of those, then jumping over a bar and doing 18, and then jumping over a bar, and it's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did some deadlifting today. 2 sets I did, dude. And literally every rep that I did, I was so concentrating on my upper back being tight and not hurting myself. And I was thinking, if I was gasping for breath here, like, I'd be hurting myself.
Yeah.
And I'm well trained in it. You know, I've been training for 15 years. So someone who's 6 months, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. And again, it's the quality of education. I know a couple of guys who are CrossFit coaches that are really good trainers, but they're really good trainers and they train and they teach CrossFit, and like they're not mutually inclusive things. They're not codependent, and it's the same with a lot of those guys that are at the top level of CrossFit, guys and girls that are at the top level. And people look up and think, oh, I want to look like that. They look like that because they do CrossFit. They don't. They look like that and they do CrossFit. Yeah. It's like the guy that loses 3 stone doing Zumba. No, he didn't. He lost 3 stone and he does Zumba. They're not cause and effect always, and people like to link things in their head.
Why do I get this feeling you have a problem with Zumba?
It's because I can't dance, mate. I've got no rhythm.
Dude, there was Zumba, there was body attack, body pump, body balance.
Anything like you're just having a dig at Les Mills now, aren't you? For no reason.
Yeah, well, I came out with this big "fuck Les Mills" statement, and then someone told me that he'd actually passed away and died.
Has he?
So I don't say anything offensive towards Les
Pair of
Mills.
wankers, and we're sitting here laughing at him.
I know. Well, he can't defend himself now. So the thing I think about those classes though, like, look, it's better to do some form of exercise than none.
Yeah.
It's just you don't want to hurt people. That's my thing. I just don't want to hurt anyone.
I think anything that gets. I mean, do you know? And it's traditional, like, you know, the whole new year, new me, and we're seeing that like every 3 months now. Because every time we come out of lockdown, it's like, oh, I'm back on it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I think initially that used to really piss me off because it's like, no, you're not. You're not going to do anything different. But like you say, I think anything that gets people, if someone's got a trigger that's going to make them start being active. Do you know what? I don't really care if that's the fact that it's January the 1st. I personally find it ridiculous. But if it's going to make someone do something, then you've just got to hope that becomes a habit and they do it long enough for it to become a habit. So I think, yeah, there's a lot to be said for moving and doing stuff. And if you do, I think one of the good things, or the only good thing about body pump, is that it introduces women to weight training. Yeah. And I think if you then take that and think, oh, actually, I've been lifting these weights and I feel good, and I haven't turned into like Lou Ferrigno, one for the kids, played the Incredible Hulk in the 1970s TV series. Doesn't matter. It sounded worse the more I explain it. I haven't turned into Ronnie Coleman. Yeah, so like I think then it makes them more interested in doing different things with weights and stuff. But I think people just get sucked into just doing that one thing over and over, then it's a bad thing. But that's true about anything, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've probably both matured a little bit now. People are going to do what they want to do, and that's cool. And like you say, new year, new me. Yes, 95% of people will just do the same old shit, but there will be a few people that, you know, the new year, new me is true. But I try and encourage, if you are going to go new year, new me kind of thing, make sure it is a new me. Like, do things differently.
Other things, don't just go to the gym 3 times a week.
Yeah, don't do what you did last year at the same. Like, do something different. Like, you know, take your time. Like, think 12 months ahead, so that next year you actually are a new person, because it's very doable. It's very doable.
You're probably the same way. I mean, when I used to work in big gyms, it's such an influx of new members. I wouldn't even bother learning anyone's name for like 3 weeks in January. If they were still coming at the start of February, then I think, all right, I might learn your name now, mate, because you're serious about this.
Well, it was a classic joke, wasn't it? Like in January, it was packed. Do you remember in Fitness First in January, you couldn't get on anything. It was a nightmare, and like we all trainers used to, you know, take the piss and just say, well, in February it'll be cool because it will be empty.
But hardly anyone here, and the ones that are serious will be talking to us about training.
Yeah. However, though, I've got to stick up for people here in the fact that Fitness First methods and success rate come from people who were called sleepers. So sign up and not come.
They don't want people in the gym.
Yeah. So as a business, that's great. Like, they're paying us, but they're not using our facilities or anything. So that was kind of a victory. So I think some of these gyms, they don't want you coming back. Like,
I used to work for a guy in Nuneaton. I can't even remember the name of the gym now. And I actually left because I fell out with the guy quite badly, because he used to employ the trainers that he used to employ. He just used to get kids that would work cheap, and they'd write really bad programs for people who then wouldn't come back because they weren't getting results. But it was really cheap, and they wouldn't be asked to cancel their direct debits. And just off my own back, because I'm me, I got them all together one day, and I just about half an hour just talking to him about how to write programs. And he calls me over the next day. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm teaching the guys to actually train people properly. Probably your job, you know, mate, but like, I've done it for you." So I thought he's actually going to thank me. It's like, I don't care if people don't get results and they don't come back, as long as they keep paying. And I'm like, that's exactly what you're talking about. It's like, these are the people that shouldn't be in the fitness industry. But that's what I always say to people. It's called the fitness industry. It's not called the fitness help you out for nothing. Yeah. So many people are in it just to make money, not to care about it, just to make money.
Well, we knew the sales guy as well, right? So we knew they were put under such pressure, like they had to
don't get Downsy on again.
They had to make so many sales a day, and whatever that took, they would do it. Otherwise, let's face it, you know, they were probably going to be threatened with no work for.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, what they call it, a job chat. If they didn't hit their targets.
So, you know, the sales guys would do whatever it took to get those sales through.
I remember, mate. Yeah, I had a couple of guys rang me up at different points that I'd encouraged to join the gym because there were clients of mine outside, and I'd encouraged to join. And then they rang me up saying, "Look, I tried to leave, and that this guy won't let me." I don't know whether it was the general manager at the time. It's like, he won't let me leave. And I said, "What do you mean he won't let you leave?" It's like, he's saying I've signed a 12-month contract. I was like, "Well, have you?" And they were like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Well, I can't do anything about that, you know." And it's just like,
well, I think there used to be an auto renew on it. So again, you wouldn't have to re-sign. It would say you'd have to cancel for, and then you miss it by a day, and you're in for another year. Some guy called me up one day. It was a client, and he said, "Alex, when's this pool being built on the top of the roof?" I haven't been signed up by Chris Downs. He was like,
"Yeah." So for anyone watching, so Fitness First was like a second-story building, wasn't it? Over the top of a supermarket. So, I mean, I'm not a structural engineer, but I'm pretty sure building a swimming pool on top of it would have been mechanically unfeasible. Yeah,
an outside pool in
Coventry, by the way. Yeah,
on the top of a high-story-ish building. Yeah,
like stone's throw away from Canley. Yeah, it's a really nice area of Coventry for anyone watching.
Dude, it's like we've been chatting shit for 2 hours 50. I kind of knew this would happen. 2 beers, and I haven't spoke to you for ages, so it was always going to.
Yeah. And is anyone even watching, or is it just me and you chatting shit now?
Just me and you chatting, yeah. No one watching. There's a reason, yeah. It must be the quality of guests.
Oh, how rude. I want to see figures afterwards to prove that I had more viewers than Matty Evans.
Yeah. Matty was talking about the ayahuasca experience, and I think people were a bit blown away by that because most people had never heard of it.
Right. Well, Matty follows his own path, doesn't he? So.
Matty's a character, man. Yeah, Matty's great. Yeah, Matty's cool. Dude, you promised me a sing-song.
I did.
For some reason, you said, "Alex, can I sing a song?" I thought you were joking. Clearly, you're not. Which now I'm quite worried.
Listen, basics of any sort of public speaking, any sort of entertainment, start with a joke, finish with a song.
Well, I'm keeping an eye on the watchers of this as you start to sing, whether they just collapse or whether we get more viewers. So
how many have we got now?
5.
Right, mate, give me something to work with. You know me. Probably more on YouTube. I've sent to YouTube.
Well, I was going to say this is across one platform, so there's 6 now. So I fucking go for it, dude, because eyes are on you.
There is a serious point to this because what I went to say, and I've spoken to you about this already, that when I was at my low point, there was literally days when I just didn't want to get out of bed. I would literally stay in bed all day. And the thing that I did, do you know what I did to get myself out of that, Alex?
Sung this song?
No, I'll tell you what I did. I'd be in bed all day, and then I'd get up in the evening, and I ain't got nothing to say. I come home in the morning. I go to bed feeling the same way. I ain't nothing but tired. Man, I'm just tired and bored with myself. Hey there, Alex. I could use just a little help. Sing along if you know it. Can't start a fire. Can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark. In the pauses, I could hear my wife laughing downstairs. That's horrendous. If she's one of your viewers and she's turned off, you need to tell me about this immediately.
I'm just worried about anyone that's tuned in right now. Dude, it's a great job you're a world-class personal trainer because, you're not going to cut it in the singing industry, bro.
When you send me the tape or whatever you call it, I don't understand technology.
Hey, dude, you're not going to get a VHS through your door of this.
What?
There's this thing called Dropbox, and I'm going to put it in there. And if you can work out what to do with it.
All day, mate. Anyone watching under 45 doesn't know what I'm on about now. Betamax was like a rival system to VHS. Anyway, no one knows what VHS is either, do they?
Probably not. I know what VHS is. Yeah, I'm 36, so I make that. And I know when you mentioned about the modem and the 56k modem making all that noise. Watching porn back in the day, mate, was an absolute nightmare.
Even now, my mum, she'll record a program for me on Sky Plus and ask me if I want to take it home and watch it.
I miss the simple world, bro. I actually do miss the simple-ish world. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's coming back. Who knows?
I'm not sure. I was doing some writing the other day, mate, and I was writing like when I worked at Tesco and I used to stack cheese for a living. Right, I used to hate it. I used to think it was horrible. I used to think I could do so much better, and I just wanted out. When I look back, it was actually like a pretty damn good time. Like when you clock out, you're out. You're done.
Nothing on your brain.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, team. You're in a team and you have a laugh.
Maybe you should go full circle, mate. Just wrap it up there. Like, you know, your last year of working life, just go back to Tesco's.
Mate, I'd be quite happy. I met some of the best people in my life in Tesco, some of the nicest, most genuine, hardworking people ever, yeah. And it wasn't as lonely as being in the personal training industry, that was for sure.
Yeah.
It's quite a lonely game, isn't it?
It can be, yeah. I mean, that's why you used to pester me with text messages when you set up your own studio, mate.
Right, I did. I was like you say, like we used to chill out. I had no one to train with, dude. No one to fight. It was like one of the biggest occasions, biggest like achievements of my life. But it was also quite a sad time that first year. And
it's not like having a needy girlfriend. I'll get a text off you like, "You're right. You haven't replied to my last text." Well, you didn't ask me anything. You just texted me to see if I was all right. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say.
I still haven't left you alone, have I?
No, it's a pleasure talking to you, though, mate. Always is.
Yeah, no, mate, it's been amazing. It's been good to catch up, and I'm so thrilled to hear that you're settled and happy with a family and business is good. So yeah, mate, I'm sure people have enjoyed listening to you talk.
And sing.
Mate, you're an absolute legend.
I don't know how to end this now, so you're going to have to stop it.
Yeah, mate, I've got it.
I don't know what to press.
Craig Gilkes, you can find Craig on Instagram. Put that up. They're absolute top trainer, legend, and he knows what he's doing with the kettlebell. Craig Gilkes, you're the man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Alex. Talk to you soon, mate. Cheers.